Chapter 1198. In the Thunderlock world there was chaos. In the dense sea of lightning, mountains collapsed and exploded, turning into dust. Rivers and waterfalls instantly vaporized, dried up, and then turned into clouds and rain. The earth was cracking, and the earth was about 10 kilometers thick. Through the cracks, one could see the stars below and other blurry worlds. In that instant, several of the weaker golden core true immortals were triggered by the electric net, and their bodies exploded into a rain of blood and blood. The rain of blood and blood was instantly reduced to ashes by the electric net, and even their golden cores were instantly burned to ashes. Little doll, today I'm going to chew your fake pill like it's jelly beans. I'm going to eat your flesh and blood clean. Divine body. A divine-grade golden core. I, Lei Meng, am really lucky. Lei Meng laughed, and his voice was like thunder. In a blink, a few more unlucky golden core immortals vomited blood and passed out. Kill. 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 With a wave of Jiang Tian's sleeve, the four divine bodies, Vermilion Bird, Azure Wood, Aged Metal and Azure Dragon, soared into the sky and roared together, shaking the sun and the moon. Under this roar, the dimensional world within a radius of 100 miles expanded, as if it was about to be broken by the terrifying power of the vast true essence. Because they were not afraid of lightning, Divine General Gungjin and Vermilion Bird were the fastest. The distance of 10 kilometers was covered in the blink of an eye, and they collided with Lei Meng. Boom. The earth quaked and the mountains swayed. Huge mushroom clouds rose one after another. Red Sparrow breathed out true fire and completely enveloped Lei Meng. Then, Divine General Gungjin slashed and cut Lei Meng in half. No way. He's so powerful. He killed him instantly. Everyone exclaimed. Golden Wing Eagle King even clapped his hands and cheered. Little Venerable of the world is so domineering. Lei Meng is the most powerful divine beast in the universe, and is known as the top thunder divine beast. How could he be killed so easily? Ancestor Azure Dragon struggled to stand up shakily. A complicated smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. There was some fear, some sadness, and some self-mockery. We are all old monsters who have formed our nascent souls for 1,000 years, but we were still subdued and enslaved by him, attracting countless people for him. Old Monster Sticks sighed. In the end, we even treated him as our hope to rise. His strength is not something you can imagine. Demon, you can't do it. Even if you have 5 divine bodies, you still can't do it. This is the most powerful divine beast in the universe. Liansheng lay on the ground and grinned hideously. However, Jiang Tian stepped on his head a few times and almost crushed it. He did not dare to speak anymore, and could only gnash his teeth in anger. Mortal, you are indeed powerful. You have formed a divine-grade golden core and a divine body. However, they are not your innate bloodline. As for me, I am an innate divine beast. The second half of the Lei Meng's body quickly turned into a ball of lightning, and merged with the first half of its body. It shook its scales, as if it had never been injured, and continued to charge at Jiang Tian while laughing coldly. He sneered and said, "Do you know what a divine beast is? They are born with divine blood, divine bones, and divine powers. They are extremely powerful. How can a mortal ant like you, who dreams of ascending to the heavens, be compared to him?" He roared and swung his claw. Boom. Divine General Gungjin was knocked 10 miles away. Bang bang bang. Divine General Gungjin crashed into a mountain, and mushroom clouds rose. He didn't stop until he hit somewhere, and didn't get up for a while. You're just a mortal. Even if you have a divine-grade golden core and a divine-grade golden core, you're still a mortal and not a god. All of a sudden, Lei Meng stood up on his hind legs and continued to expand, reaching a height of 1,000 meters. He had the head of a lion and the body of a human. He still had a pair of dragon horns, but his facial features were very similar to a human's. Although his body had turned into that of a human, with 2 legs and 2 feet, his 4 talon-like claws were still there. Shiny scales covered his entire body, making him look like the world's most exquisite and tough armor. Thick bolts of lightning encircled his body, and his demonic vertical pupils shot out beams of divine light that resembled lamp posts. He walked over steadily, and sent the Vermilion Bird flying with a punch of lightning. The fiery red feathers that filled the sky fluttered and fell. Lei Ming was full of arrogance and disdain. He said, "Ant mortal, do you want to become a god? Dream on. As far as I know, no mortal has been able to ascend to the divine realm in 10,000 years. You're too weak." Swoosh. Thousands of dragon-binding ropes shot out and wrapped around Lei Ming tightly. Whirling divine tree. So scary. So impressive. Lei Ming gave a ferocious grin. Suddenly, his 6 arms shook at the same time, and his muscles bulged. His body expanded rapidly, forcibly bursting the dragon ropes. At this moment, he had grown to a height of 1,500 meters. "However, in my eyes, you're just a piece of wood." With a kick, Lei Ming sent the dancing divine tree flying thousands of meters away. Countless branches were broken, and a large crack appeared on the trunk. Roar. The black water-green dragon was fearless. It shook its head and wagged its tail as it rushed forward. "Come down." Lei Ming shouted coldly and soared 10,000 meters into the air. His foot tore through the clouds and descended from the sky, stomping the black water-green dragon's head into the ground. At this moment, he was only a few hundred meters away from Jiang Tian. It was like a demon god looking down at an ant. It was a great visual impact. "It's over. The little revered one of West Earth is going to die here." At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded and felt desperate. Mao Hongdia's face turned pale, and her eyes were red. She was so anxious that she was about to cry. "Cute little bug." Lei Ming twisted his head from side to side. The joints of his cervical vertebrae rubbed against each other, producing crackling noises that sounded like beans being popped. His domineering and ferocious aura was as strong as a tide, spreading in all directions and filling the thunder lock within 100 miles. His demonic vertical pupils stared at Jiang Tian, as he spoke with a disdainful expression. "If your 5 elemental false cores were combined into one, it would be a deity grade or sacred grade golden core. I would have to be careful of you. But if the 5 elemental divine bodies are separated, their power can't be increased. Why don't you form a golden core? You don't know how to do it?" "Interesting." Jiang Tian smiled. The Thunder Beast was indeed the strongest Thunder Beast in the universe. It was strong enough to be on par with the 4 divine bodies in a one-on-one fight. "How dare you laugh? How can you laugh? Do mortals always like to bluff?" Lei Ming yelled, and a terrifying energy came down from the sky. "The reason why I don't form a deity grade or sacred grade golden core is that I want to gather 9 divine grade false cores to form a chaotic golden core." Jiang Tian smiled and said, "The connate 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth are not enough. I want wind, thunder, ice, and darkness. And you're the material I need to form a thunder elemental false core." "What?" At this moment, Lei Ming was suddenly alerted. His body tensed and his scales stood up. He took a step back. But it was too late. "Earth Dragon, appear." With a low shout, Jiang Tian's body suddenly expanded. The Earth Dragon Dharma form appeared and merged into one. It had a dragon's head and a human's body. It was more than 10,000 feet tall. 10,000 feet tall. 50 miles was several times taller than the Himalayas. If he were to lie down, he would occupy half of the Thunder Lock. Compared to him, Lei Ming, who used to be mighty and extraordinary, was as weak as a 3-year-old child. "Oh God! All the bodies of heavenly lords are nothing more than this." At that moment, True Dragon Ancestor, Old Monster Styx River, and Old Rulai Lotus were all dumbfounded, not daring to believe it. Even the golden-winged Eagle King was shocked to the extreme. He only felt that the scene in front of him made him dizzy, and his mind almost exploded. The fact that Jiang Tian had multiple golden cores and multiple Dharma Laksana was already incredible to the extreme. At this moment, Jiang Tian unleashed the last winged dragon Dharma body. It was so powerful that it could destroy the heavens and the earth. "Well, fellow Taoist, actually, I can be your cute pet. Think about it." Lei Ming raised his head and smiled flatteringly. At this moment, his smile was uglier than his crying face. He was so scared that his whole body was trembling. "It's too late. Besides, you're not cute enough. You're too ugly." Jiang Tian, who had merged with the Earth Dragon Dharma form, grinned and pulled out a small stone cauldron from his dantian. "Chaotic Source Stone. Why do you have this?" Lei Ming screamed. His eyes were filled with fear. Even if Jiang Tian had used the Earth Dragon Dharma form, he still thought he had a chance of survival. But when Jiang Tian pulled out the chaotic source stone cauldron, Lei Meng lost all hope. This wasn't something he could resist. Boom. Jiang Tian didn't say anything. His eyes were cold. The chaotic source stone cauldron swallowed the primordial aura and smashed down. Run! Lei Meng was scared out of his wits. He flapped his huge wings and rushed toward the chaotic thunder mountain like lightning. Clang! The chaotic source stone cauldron expanded rapidly. Lei Meng ran fast, but the chaotic source stone cauldron expanded even faster. Lei Meng only ran a mile before he was pinned to the ground by the primordial aura. No, he could only roar. He raised his hands to the sky and spat out a beam of lightning from his mouth. He wanted to break through the chaotic source stone cauldron like a peerless heavenly sword. But the lightning that could shatter divine mountains and shatter the earth didn't leave a single mark on the chaotic source stone cauldron. The chaotic source stone cauldron expanded to the extreme. Countless primordial aura fell, and each of them could destroy a golden core. There were at least tens of thousands of primordial aura flowing down from the chaotic source stone. This meant that if Jiang Tian completely unleashed the power of the chaotic source stone cauldron, it wouldn't be a problem to kill tens of thousands of golden core. Of course, this was the power of divine materials and Dharma treasures. It wasn't Jiang Tian's true ability. Even if Jiang Tian had 5 divine bodies and refined 5 divine-grade fake elixirs, his battle strength could only deal with 100 golden core and 1 or a few nascent soul cultivators. If 10,000 golden core cultivators attacked together, Jiang Tian wouldn't be able to withstand it. Boom. Lei Meng raised his hands and wanted to fight, but no matter how many secret techniques he used, he couldn't turn the situation around. The chaotic source stone cauldron smashed down like a mountain. In almost a second, his arms exploded and blood splashed. Then his head shattered and his neck broke. In the next moment, his chest exploded and his ribs pierced through his scale-covered stomach and back. His entire body was smashed into the ground. He's dead. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw this. They couldn't believe it, as if they had seen a ghost. Chapter 1199. On the ground, there was a majestic mountain that one could only look up at. It pierced through the clouds, and around the foot of the mountain, there was a huge ditch. Many abandoned palaces and fortifications were falling into the ditch. Lei Meng had disappeared from where he was. He was suppressed by the mountain. He was actually killed so easily. Everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. It was said that Lei Meng was invincible in this world. There were even rumors that nascent soul heavenly lords had died in his hands. But now he was killed by a fake core cultivator in a few seconds. It was like a joke. Dead. How could this be? Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon murmured. Dead. Old Monster Mingi nodded. He had to accept this sad reality. No, they won't die so easily. They are the hope of our revival. Liansheng screamed as tears fell down his face. Suddenly, there was a rumbling sound at the foot of the chaotic thunder mountain in the distance. Thick lightning bolts lingered on the ground. The ground was undulating as if there was an earth dragon rolling. The moment countless stones and soil flew up, Lei Meng's twisted body flew out. He drew a straight line in the air and fled into the depths of the chaotic thunder mountain. At this time, Lei Meng's body was partially repaired, but he was still seriously injured. One of his claws was stuck to his back like a piece of paper. One of his legs was cut off and could not be reattached. Sparkling blood flowed down, and there were flashes of lightning in it. However, his wings had been reattached, and he was not slow. It would only take a few seconds for him to enter the chaotic thunder mountain. There is a thunder array outside the chaotic thunder mountain. It will be difficult to fight inside. The golden-winged Eagle King reminded him loudly. Golden Eagle King. Shut up. Liansheng's eyes were fierce. He couldn't wait to tear Golden Eagle King into pieces. In fact, there was no need for Golden Eagle King to remind him. Jiang Tian also knew this. He smiled coldly and said, "He can't run away." Where Jiang Tian was standing, the ground suddenly caved in, forming a deep pit with a radius of 10 miles. Around the deep pit were shocking fissures, as if even the myriad stone cauldron was about to be overturned. The next moment, Jiang Tian was no longer in the pit. Everyone looked up and saw a small black dot in the sky, shooting in the direction of chaotic Thunder Mountain. Whoosh! The myriad origin cauldron was suddenly taken away by Jiang Tian. It soared into the sky and became smaller and smaller. Soon, it disappeared from everyone's sight. Rumble! With an earth-shattering sound, Jiang Tian landed in the middle of the chaotic Thunder Mountain like a comet with a long tail. The chaotic Thunder Mountain, which had a radius of 10 li, directly collapsed into a mess, disappearing from the ground. What replaced it was a tall mountain formed by the myriad origin stone. The chaotic lightning mountain was actually erased by Jiang Tian, using the myriad origin stone cauldron. Whether it was the formations, the restrictive spells, the demon soldiers, or the beautiful concubines that Lei Meng enjoyed, they were all reduced to dust in an instant. The mountain formed by the myriad origin stone was still expanding, pushing and pushing. The surrounding ground rippled outwards like water waves. It was forcefully pushed out of hills, peaks, gullies, and rivers. At this time, Lei Meng's body had yet to stop moving. With a loud bang, he crashed into the mountain wall that was pushing towards him. He fell to the ground with broken bones and broken tendons. Revered one of the world, I'm a divine beast. Isn't being your pet and mount enough sincerity? Isn't it enough to be your servant? Why do you have to kill me? At this time, Lei Meng was truly terrified. He wanted to cry but had no tears. When he looked up, he saw Jiang Tian, who was 10,000 zhang tall, looking down at him as if he was an ant. He didn't expect Jiang Tian to be so powerful that he could destroy his nest and the chaotic thunder snake array formation that he had refined for 1,000 years. Whether it's a mount or a servant, it's still an external object. It's not as powerful as the divine body I refined from your monster core. Jiang Tian's divine body of the winged dragon, his demonic vertical pupils were emotionless and cold. His voice was like thunder, shaking the heaven and earth. Qi. Lei Meng's body suddenly swayed and turned into a stream of light. With rolling thunder, he flew towards the distance. His target was Mao Hongdai. I've captured your disciple. Let's see how you're going to act against me. I'm not going to kill you. I just want to sign up. Why do you have to be so aggressive? This girl is really something. But it's a pity. Lei Meng lived up to his name as the #1 lightning divine beast. His innate ability allowed him to move faster than lightning. A distance of dozens of miles was covered in a few seconds. In fact, Jiang Tian and Lei Meng's combat power was too terrifying. This Leisure world was too small. It was like a small house that they couldn't use their full strength. However, he had just flown 10 miles when suddenly, the dancing azure tree came at him from the side. The dragon-binding azure rope wrapped around him and tied him up tightly. Humph! I could have broken your vines just now. Why are you still bothering me? Do you want to die? Lei Meng's face was full of contempt and mockery. His body shook violently, and thunder and lightning burst out, trying to destroy the dancing azure tree. But it didn't budge. The dragon-binding azure rope was like an arm. It lifted Lei Meng up high and slammed him heavily to the ground. Rumble! A huge mushroom cloud rose into the sky. Lei Meng's body, which was more than 10,000 feet tall, left a huge pit with a radius of several miles on the ground. In the huge pit, Lei Meng vomited blood and roared, "Motherfucker, you tricked me." At this moment he finally understood. He had never been able to break the azure dragon binding azure tree. Just now, Jiang Tian had deliberately shown weakness to lure him into the encirclement. Sure enough, as he had guessed, he had just turned his body into a bolt of lightning, passed through the dragon-binding azure rope, and soared into the sky. Smack! The Xianshui azure dragon arrived and swept its huge tail with the force of a river. It hit Lei Meng like a hockey player, sending him rolling on the ground. Divine General Gung Jin attacked again and added another blow, sending Lei Meng flying into the air. The crisp sound of bones breaking was heard. His body twisted strangely and fell at Jiang Tian's feet. Rumble! Jiang Tian picked up the stone cauldron of myriad origin and smashed it down again. Lei Meng screamed and couldn't dodge at all. Jiang Tian lifted the stone cauldron of myriad origin. Lei Meng's head was broken and his bones and tendons were broken. His body was broken into countless pieces, and he was on the verge of death. The divine beast's blood stained the ground and he could no longer form a body, let alone fight back. You've beaten me so badly. You want my monster core? I won't let you get away with it. Lei Meng was gasping for breath, his face twisted in pain, but he still glared at Jiang Tian with hatred, his face resolute. Explode! A low roar came out of his mouth. Suddenly, everyone's face turned pale, and they cried out in shock as they quickly retreated. He's going to explode his monster core. Get out of the way. He was a powerful divine beast at the nascent soul level, far more powerful than ordinary nascent soul overlords. If his golden core exploded, it would be equivalent to 10 or even 100 nuclear bombs exploding at the same time. The entire Thunderlock world would be destroyed in an instant. Little Revered One of the West Earth, you're silly. You've killed us. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon sighed and beat his chest. Old Rulai Lotus laughed sinisterly, his face full of disdain as he mocked. Brat Yin Huang, you have no idea how strong Lei Meng is. Shaking hands and making peace would have been the best outcome, but you had to be so aggressive. Now, we're all going to die. Do you regret it? Who could withstand the explosion of a divine beast's monster core? Even if Jiang Tian's divine body was strong enough to withstand it, this world would be destroyed. All the space tunnels leading to different dimensions would be destroyed. Jiang Tian would fall into the empty vacuum of the universe. Unless he had the power of a soul formation cultivator, who could tear the space apart and travel across the universe with his body, he would die. Haha, do you think you can control it? Swallow. With a low shout, Jiang Tian's soul devourer erupted, forming a frightening underworld gate that floated in the void and enveloped Lei Meng. What's that? Lei Meng was shocked. Then he saw the scenery on the ground and his body become smaller and smaller as his vision rose higher and higher. And the underworld gate was already close at hand. No. Don't kill me. I'm convinced. I'm completely convinced. Lei Meng's divine soul, which was as small as a fetus, cried out in pain. His nascent soul, which had just formed, kept trembling. The nascent soul of a nascent soul cultivator was called a nascent soul. It was already very powerful, but it couldn't withstand a single blow from the Yin Gate. He felt the terrifying suction and devouring power of the Yin Gate. It was like a black hole that he couldn't break free from. He could even hear the deep roars of the three-eyed demon that the soul devourer had imitated. He could see the three-eyed demon's greedy eyes and its saliva flowing like a stream. The Yin Gate was the result of Jiang Tian's soul swallow's divine consciousness being extremely powerful. During the battle with Mingrui, Jiang Tian had only used the soul devourer to simulate a three-eyed demon god, and it had caused her many auxiliary vengeful spirits to manifest and break her Dao heart that was as firm as a rock. After Jiang Tian absorbed part of the chaotic energy from the galaxy crystal sand and the cauldron of creation, he created the Earth Dragon body and formed 5 fake elixirs. His soul swallow also became stronger. Furthermore, Jiang Tian's Sea of Consciousness originally contained the demonic qi of the dancing tree. After Jiang Tian used the demonic cultivation technique, the unrestrained heavenly demonic art, he merged the demonic qi and the demonic qi into one, refining it to the limit and forming this underworld shadow gate. With Jiang Tian's current power, he couldn't connect this gate to the dark underworld deep in the universe. After all, only soul formation grand cultivators could control space. And yet, even if Jiang Tian simulated a bit of power, it would be easy to deal with normal divine souls. It was several times more powerful than the original soul swallow. So when Jiang Tian used this gate to deal with the Yiksha above Mount Luohan, which was best at devouring divine souls, he almost defeated it with a snap of his fingers. The divine soul of a divine beast was very powerful. Not to mention that he was already a nascent soul cultivator. As long as his divine soul existed, he wouldn't be afraid even if he lost his body or his golden core. He could still find a body and possess it. And yet, at this moment, Lei Meng felt that his nascent soul was about to be devoured and he almost cried. He's actually convinced. Golden-Winged Rock King was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. This was Lei Meng, who was famous in all the multidimensional worlds, but he was convinced by the little overlord of West Earth. If he doesn't accept it, his body and soul will be destroyed and he will disappear from this world completely. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon smiled bitterly and his face turned pale. He can even devour the souls of divine beasts. Ancestral patriarch Nether River also mumbled in shock. His Yellow Spring art was also a cultivation art that specialized in devouring souls and cutting off vitality. It could even kill nascent soul cultivators by chance. But when they fought hundreds of years ago, it couldn't do anything to Lei Meng's divine soul. Lei Meng's divine soul was as heavy as a mountain and as firm as a rock. And yet, Jiang Tian's Yin Gate was about to devour Lei Meng's divine soul in a snap of his fingers. Compared to Jiang Tian's soul-devouring power, he only felt that his underworld art was too weak to withstand a single blow. It was trashed to the extreme. Chapter 1200. It's over. With Lei Meng's death, our 1,000-year plan is ruined. We can only become slaves under the rule of the Ruins Emperor. Old Rulai Lotus looked up to the sky and sighed. Tears streamed down his face as he trembled in grief. Master, you are wise and mighty, handsome and confident. Why lower yourself to my level? Little Lei already knows his mistake. As long as you spare Little Lei's life, Little Lei will definitely be loyal to you. I'll do whatever you want me to do. However, just as Lei Meng's nascent soul was howling in agony and was just inches away from the Yin Underworld Gate, the Yin Underworld Gate slowly closed amidst the unwilling howls of the soul-devouring three-eyed demon god. Your soul is also a gifted soul and has naturally inherited many lightning elemental techniques. I'll spare your life and let you be the spirit of the array or artifact. Jiang Tian sighed and decided to keep Lei Meng's soul. Thank you for sparing my life, master. Little Lei will definitely do his best. Lei Meng's soul jumped onto Jiang Tian's huge palm that was covered in scales. Like a pet, he acted cute and fond over Jiang Tian. Losing his flesh, demon core, and cultivation, leaving behind only his nascent soul. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. However, he had no other choice. Only by following Jiang Tian and performing well might he have a chance to recondense his corporeal body. Otherwise, his soul would be destroyed and he would disappear completely. Okay. Jiang Tian nodded. A soul-devouring tentacle burst out from his forehead and swept Lei Meng's soul in. Big brother, don't hit me. We're both souls. Why do you have to make things difficult for souls? The moment Lei Meng entered Jiang Tian's consciousness, the soul-devouring monster immediately transformed into a monster as tall as a mountain and attacked him. It beat him up so badly that he cried for his parents. Jiang Tian returned to his normal form and landed on top of Lei Meng's huge body. In the blink of an eye, a few divine bodies entered Jiang Tian's dantian, like tired birds returning to their nest. Under the suppression of the thick earth god suppressing chains, Jiang Tian's aura didn't leak out at all. He looked like an ordinary person. However, at this moment, who would dare to treat him as an ordinary person? Jiang Tian stood proudly in the air with his hands behind his back. He looked at Ta Kong, Elder Zhenlong, Old Monster Mingi, Old Rulai, and the rest and said indifferently, I killed Lei Meng, stole his gold core, and enslaved his soul. Do you accept this? As a matter of fact, the three nascent soul formation stage cultivators had been scared out of their wits by Jiang Tian's techniques and power. They wanted to run away, but they didn't dare to. Jiang Tian had even slain the supreme divine beast, Thunder Centipede. With his strength, he could easily sweep through many level 3 and even level 2 dimensional worlds. How could they have the ability to resist? Hearing Jiang Tian's question, the True Dragon Patriarch hurriedly knelt on the ground and said respectfully, We have no objections. We will follow the Heavenly Monarch's orders. He understood that Jiang Tian's cultivation should be at pseudo-core. Moreover, he had 5 pseudo-cores. The 5th level of foundation establishment was just a facade. Since he was at pseudo-core, he should be called a perfected cultivator. However, Jiang Tian's combat power was not inferior to that of a nascent soul stage cultivator. Of course, he would call him Heavenly Monarch to show respect. Your disciple submit. Seeing that, Old Monster Mingi also knelt on the ground. Old Monster Mingi was still unwilling, but the situation forced him to bow and put his palms together to show respect. If he submitted, he could still keep his life. If he didn't, he would only be killed by Jiang Tian. There was no chance of survival at all. Jiang Tian stepped forward with his hands behind his back and asked, I injured you and killed your companions. Do you accept this? Yes, I accept. I accept. The true dragon patriarch said with a trembling voice. Old monster Mingi kowtowed. I killed old monster Mingi, and became the revered one of the West Earth. Do you old monster Mingi, accept this? Jiang Tian stepped forward and grabbed the chaotic source-stone cauldron. He held it in his hand and faced old monster Mingi. The initial chaotic aura was like a god descending to the mortal world. I, your disciple, accept. I accept this wholeheartedly. Old monster Mingi couldn't hold on any longer. His knees went soft, and he knelt on the ground. Seeing that, everyone felt like they were dreaming. They couldn't believe it. So many twists and turns. Who would have thought that he would be able to turn the tables? Golden Rock Eagle King clapped his hands and sighed. He felt that he had never seen anything as exciting as that day. This little revered one of the West Earth was so domineering. He killed Lei Meng alone and forced the 3 rulers of a world to submit. At that moment, he also wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He was still scared. When Lei Meng and the 4 nascent soul old monsters attacked, he really wanted to kneel and beg for mercy. He wanted to stand opposite of Jiang Tian. After all, Jiang Tian's combat power was only at the false core stage. Although he could kill perfected Lord Green Wolf, he couldn't face a nascent soul divine beast and 5 rulers head-on. But he was worried that even if he joined Lei Meng's side, he wouldn't be able to escape death. Therefore, he could only grit his teeth and persevere. He didn't expect that he had made the right bet. How was this little revered one of the West Earth? He could be called a Tao ancestor in the ruins of immortality. One day, if this master kills his way to the ruins of immortality, won't we be able to do whatever we want with him? Golden Rock Eagle King thought happily. He ignored the pain and injuries on his body caused by the aftermath of the battle, and stood behind Jiang Tian. He put his hands on his hips and looked around proudly. Since you've submitted, I'll spare your lives for now. Jiang Tian also placed the chaotic source stone cauldron in his dantian, and landed on the ground. Tell me, why did you abandon your overflowing authority like a pair of worn-out shoes, hide in this world, and willingly become the servants of a divine beast? The 4 of them were all experienced nascent soul old monsters. They each had their own strengths. In terms of strength, Buddha Datong was slightly stronger, and Ming Rui Qi Liao and Baizhe couldn't compare to him. If they were loyal, they would also be useful. Of course, if they had ulterior motives, Jiang Tian naturally had a way to deal with them. Old Monster Nether River, Patriarch Azure Dragon, and Buddha Lotus looked at each other, puzzled. Who exactly was this master? There were some things that they didn't dare to say casually. Get up. Jiang Tian smiled warmly and said, just tell me the truth. I'm not the kind of person to kill the innocent. Buddha Lotus stood up, but he still bowed slightly and asked tentatively, may I ask if the revered one of the world is from the ruins of immortality? No. Jiang Tian shook his head. Hearing that, the 4 of them instantly relaxed and heaved a sigh of relief. Patriarch True Dragon said, revered one of the world, I was the ruler of the Dragon Gate world in the 3rd grade dimension under the Ao Emperor of the Ruins of Immortality. The traitor of the Ruins of Immortality. Wait, who is the Ao Emperor? I heard that the Ruins Emperor is in charge now. Jiang Tian frowned. He doesn't even know about the Ao Emperor? Could he be an expert from another world? Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. The Ao Emperor is the successor of the Shang Emperor. If you want to talk about the Ao Emperor, you have to start from the Shang Emperor. However, the true dragon patriarch suppressed the shock in his heart and coughed to explain. When man was born, the world was connected. When man was born, the world was connected. When man was born, the world was connected. To put it simply, the ancient earth and the deity ground were connected by the path of heaven. They could communicate at any time in a day. The deity ground was controlled by the Yellow Emperor. A famous evil god, Chiyu, was born in the deity ground. He came to the ancient earth and rallied the Miao people and Magi to fight the deity ground. During the war, the Yellow Emperor went to the world and killed Chiyu. His grandson, Zhuanxiu, injured the leader of the Magi, Jiufeng. When Yu the Great arrived, the human race was at its peak. But maybe before you the Great, or even Yao Shun, there were already enemies from another world invading the ancient Earth. The spirit qi on the ancient Earth was declining. Rumor has it that a rare treasure entered the planet and devoured the spirit qi. This history was from tens of thousands of years ago, or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. Even though Patriarch True Dragon had lived for a few thousand years, he had never experienced it himself. He had only heard about it from the seniors. However, perhaps because he had heard too much, he still had lingering fears. His face was pale, and his hands were trembling slightly. Rumor has it that the enemies from another planet were extremely powerful. They could travel across the universe with their bodies, and their Dharma powers were profound. They were also extremely vicious and could devour all lives. At that time, the enemies from another planet region attacked, and the spirit qi on the ancient Earth was declining. Everyone's power stopped at the nascent soul level. Under such circumstances, the ancient Earth was no longer suitable for cultivators to live on. Jiang Tian thought to himself. The invaders were most likely the annihilators. At that time, Emperor Zhongli was on par with Yu the Great. He was given an order. First, he cut off the connection between the ancient Earth and the deity ground to prevent the invaders from going to the deity ground along the path of stars. But Yu the Great stayed on Earth and continued to protect the human race. Second, he built an array at the bottom of the deity ground and part of the ancient Earth and the deity mountains overseas. He started to wander the universe and his target was the South Gate twin stars. Wait! Jiang Tian's eyes flashed as he asked. Are you saying that the deity ground didn't belong to the ancient Earth in the first place? What I said is just a legend. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon nodded and said. The deity ground used to be the place where the deities and entities lived. Although Emperor Sheng could sacrifice the freedom of the deities and true gods by cutting off the connection, there would be less trouble, and the stability of the ancient Earth would be maintained. Because at that time, many entities in the deity ground had already joined the overlords from other planets and attacked the weak humans on the ancient Earth. However, in the process of advancing, our predecessors were intercepted by alien races and suffered heavy casualties. Besides, some of the deity mountains used up their energy during the process. To avoid being attacked by their natural enemies, they built dimensional barriers and folded dimensions, turning them into dimensional worlds. A glint of sadness flashed in his eyes and he said respectfully, This is the West Gate of the West Gate. This is the Western Heavenly Gate in the deity ground. It's an important city that is connected to the multidimensional worlds. They were also attacked by the overlords from other planets. Legend has it that when they were defeated, Emperor Sheng, or one of the predecessors on the Skeleton Hill, used a powerful divine power to close the dimensional barriers. Only a few thunder mantises were left behind. What level was Emperor Zhongli at? Jiang Tian thought for a while, and asked with a glint of coldness in his eyes. That Emperor Zhongli was definitely powerful. Not even a soul formation cultivator would be able to travel between continents and planets. Chapter 1201. That may have happened tens of thousands of years ago, or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. A lot of history has been buried in history, and I don't know how powerful the Sheng Emperor was. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon said. It's just that it's said that the Sheng Emperor and many other ancient deities could move mountains, carry moons, move mountains, fill seas, and turn land into rivers. They probably didn't go through the tribulation and didn't ascend to the deity realm, but they were definitely much more powerful than the soul formation stage. I'm afraid they were Dao Reunion true ancestors. Jiang Tian pondered. Maybe Zhongli didn't choose to ascend to the deity realm. He didn't do it for himself, but for the human race on Earth. After countless brutal battles, Zhongli thought that the enemy was too powerful and the entire deity ground and the multidimensional worlds would be destroyed. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon heaved a sigh. In order to protect his descendants, he passed the throne of the deity land to Ao Sovereign. Then, he led 3,000 disciples to open another path in the space warp ship, and sailed to the other side of the starry sky. A spaceship? That kind of spaceship can travel through the universe at a speed faster than the speed of light. Only a true god can build and drive it. Jiang Tian was shocked. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon said. But rumor has it that the spaceship wasn't built by the human race on Earth or the deity ground. It was found by the Shang Emperor by accident. But as for which race or who left it behind, it has already been buried in the dust of history. Ao Emperor. Jiang Tian asked. He's a monster, right? That's right. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon said proudly. In ancient times, it was an era where great demons and humans lived side by side. Ao Emperor was the most powerful Dao reunion cultivator of the dragon race, and the right-hand man of the Shang Emperor. Ahem, he's also my ancestor. Ao Emperor created the heaven and earth cage around Earth. While he was pushing the deity ground forward, he used the reverse force of the propulsion array to push many surveillance Dharma artifacts around Earth, waiting for the spirit chi of ancient Earth to recover. So, you waited for the spirit chi to recover, so that you could come and take over their territories and enslave them? Jiang Tian sneered, his eyes flashing with killing intent. The true dragon patriarch trembled in fear, and hurriedly knelt on the ground. That's not Ao's sovereign's intention. He had always regarded Earth as his mother planet and homeland. I didn't want anyone to hurt me, so I had no choice but to leave Earth. He wanted to use the confinement of heaven and earth as a declaration of safety to the civilizations of the universe, to show that the people on Earth were not strong enough to become cultivators, and could only stay below the building foundation stage. However, he had always been looking forward to the revival of the ancient Earth's spiritual chi. He wanted to return the multidimensional worlds to the ancient Earth, and rebuild the glory of the great cultivation planets. Unfortunately, he didn't manage to wait for that day to come. He waited for the ancient Earth to wither, and become a lifeless dead planet. He died in tears. However, I've heard that the ruins of immortality are ready to attack Earth at any time. Moreover, anyone who wants to reach Earth will have a great merit. Jiang Tian said coldly. Little revered one, you are mistaken. This is an order from the Ruins Emperor. The Ruins Emperor is the one who completely destroyed the foundation of the Shang and Ao sovereigns and cut off the cultivation seedlings of the ancient Earth. The true dragon patriarch explained with tears in his eyes. The Shang Emperor chose the South Gate twin planets because the deity ground and the ancient Earth were already in contact with them before the disaster. In an older age, the South Gate twin planets even sent their disciples to the deity ground to learn cultivation arts. The cultivation civilization of the South Gate twin planets was very backward back then. It couldn't be compared to the deity ground or even the ancient Earth. Jiang Tian was startled. Mao Hongdai was also in disbelief. It turned out that the South Gate twin planets had intelligent life forms and were cultivators. It wasn't an empty, lifeless planet region. However, everything changed when we arrived at the South Gate twin planets and entered the orbit of the planets after a long time, and thought we could rebuild our home. Millions of nascent soul cultivators and 1,000 soul formation overlords from the South Gate twin planets immediately arrived at the deity ground and carried out an inhumane massacre. They killed the Ao sovereign and destroyed the heavenly court. After 10,000 years of fighting, the entire deity ground was reduced to ruins and all the deities and humans were enslaved. From then on, the deity ground was called the Ruins of Deity. We are a small dimensional world in the system of the Ruins of Immortality. Dragon Gate, Northern Sea Pingliangzhou. Our speed is much slower. When we received Ao Huang's message, we immediately destroyed the propulsion array and stopped in the desolate universe. Tears streamed down his face as he wailed in agony. However, the dimensions didn't stop sailing for a day or two, but for decades. It was called the Age of Emergency. In the era of emergency shutdown, the climate changed abruptly. Spiritual energy was sometimes violent and sometimes thin. The weather was sometimes hot and sometimes cold. The continents were shattered. Storms, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions broke out one after another. Magma flowed across the land like an ocean. Countless of our people were killed or injured. Half of them died. Jiang Tian felt sad after hearing that. That was the cruel and cold truth of the universe. Resources were limited, but there was no limit to civilization's desire to expand. Invasion and war were the eternal themes in order to survive. Maybe the Shang Emperor wasn't just afraid of the universe annihilator. He might have guessed the outcome of the Southgate twin planets. However, he only had one hyperdrive flying ship, which could only accommodate a few thousand people. A cold light flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes as this thought appeared in his mind. But he didn't want to believe it. In his mind, the Shang Emperor was already a great hero. Abandoning his people was obviously a deserter. But we still couldn't escape the fate of being exterminated and enslaved. The robbers of the Southgate twin planets called themselves the Emperor of the Ruins after they occupied the deity ground. They continued to invade the dimensions and completely enslaved them. I used to be the dominator of the Dragon Gate world. But I couldn't accept the fate of being enslaved, and I didn't want to see my people and descendants become slaves too. After discovering the existence of the Thunderlock world 1,000 years ago, we entered that world. The Thunder Chi is said to be an extremely rare thunder divine beast in the universe. It can kill soul formation cultivators after it reaches the nascent soul level. When it reaches adulthood, it's invincible. I'm an incompetent old man, so I put my hopes on it. I hoped it could steal golden cores and raise nascent souls, but Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon shook his head with a bitter expression and said, "We met the little revered one of West Earth. I thought the sect master of the heavenly god was resisting the invaders, but now it seems that he was resisting the Emperor of the Ruins." There was a lot of information in what Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon said. Jiang Tian pondered and mumbled to himself. In the Heavenly Star Small World, the sect master of the heavenly god had split the One Sword Valley 1,000 years ago, cutting off many teleport arrays and completely destroying the ancient universe path. He was even more thorough than Emperor Zhongli. After all, even though Emperor Zhongli had destroyed the ancient universe path, he had left some teleport arrays behind. In fact, Jiang Tian was also curious. Dimensions had been folded, so it would have been difficult for the overlords in the universe to find them. Earth, a dead planet without any spirit chi, and the confinement of heaven and earth had also become a shelter for the dimensional worlds. When the overlords in the universe found that Earth had no spirit chi and no cultivation civilization, they would think that there was no threat in that dimension, so they would pass by. And yet, there was still an earth-shattering battle on Star World. Nascent soul overlords and even protective overlords invaded and killed the sect master of the heavenly god. It turned out that the fortress had been breached from the inside. As it turned out, in the long journey through the stars, the Shang Emperor went missing, the Ao Emperor fell, and the Ruins Emperor took over. Starting from the Ruins of Immortality, he pushed his way to the Level 2, Level 3, and Level 4 dimensional worlds, taking over the entire Ruins of Immortality system. The sect master of the heavenly god? Ancestral Patriarch Xinlong looked at him with admiration and sighed. He used to be the palace master of the Heavenly God Academy under the rule of Ao Huang. He cultivated many cultivators. 1,000 years ago, when the Ruins Emperor's army invaded, he led the academy and fought for 100 years. In the end, he was outnumbered and died. Besides, he destroyed the ancient teleportation array in the universe, making it difficult to travel from the ruins of deity to Heavenly Star, and from Heavenly Star to Earth. Otherwise, Earth would have become the territory of the ruins of deity. Not necessarily. Next to him, old monster Mingi shook his head. The first step of the Ruins Emperor's plan was to rule the ruins of deity. The second step was to wait for Earth's spirit chi to recover, and for Planet Destroyer to appear. Before that, he didn't want to enslave ancient Earth. He wanted to recuperate, and not let any cultivation civilization develop on Earth. Of course, we have to admit that he didn't have good intentions for Earth, and was determined to get it. He just wanted to wait for the right time. I once felt a very strong fiend chi at the old site of the Heavenly God sect in the Heavenly Star sector. Besides, a Heavenly Star expert had once summoned the remnant soul of a fiend to fight with me. Jiang Tian suddenly thought of a detail and asked with a frown. The fiend chi might have been left behind by the Ruins Emperor's army. Were there any fiends under the Ruins Emperor? Like ancient fiends, sanguine fiends, dark fiends, etc.? Fiends. Patriarch True Dragon and company exchanged looks and then shook their heads. The Ruins Emperor and the Southern Gate Twin Stars are not fiendish cultivators, but ordinary humans. There are even rumors that the residents of the Southern Gate twin stars are immigrants from the ancient primordial world. They are no different from you. I'm afraid the Ruins Emperor is just a puppet. There must be a mastermind behind the scenes. Jiang Tian's eyes revealed a look of deep thought. He was certain that there was indeed a rich Fian Qi remnant in the solitary Sword Valley in the Stellar Sky domain. Especially the dancing tree, which had been corrupted by the Fian Qi and turned into a tree demon. It was then subdued by Jiang Tian and refined into the dancing greenwood divine body. Since the heavenly god Sex Master was actually killed by Ao Emperor's army, and there were fiends in that army, it was very likely that Ao Emperor was colluding with the fiends. Jiang Tian temporarily suppressed that thought and asked, "How strong is the Ruins Emperor? How strong is the Ruins of Deity?" Chapter 1202. The Ruins Emperor's cultivation is unfathomable. It's estimated that he's at the soul formation level, and is known as a heavenly lord. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon and the others turned pale when the Ruins Emperor was mentioned. They looked terrified. They were only at the nascent soul level. Compared to the Ruins Emperor, there was a huge gap between them and the nascent soul level. The difference between the soul formation level and the nascent soul level was more than just a level. Although they weren't true gods, they had already reached the human god level and the demigod level. Their primordial spirits were placed in the void and could live forever. They could be called gods. Facing the Ruins Emperor with their level of cultivation was like a 3-year-old child facing a 2-foot-tall King Kong. He could kill them with a flick of his finger. Soul formation. Jiang Tian looked solemn. 2 beams of cold light flickered in his eyes. He felt a sense of danger and urgency that he had never felt before. At the Ruins Emperor's level, he could break through space by force. It was only a matter of time before he came to Earth. With Jiang Tian's current level, even if he had 5 divine bodies and 5 fake elixirs, he could fight against an early-stage nascent soul cultivator. However, it was still very dangerous when facing a soul formation cultivator. He could only retreat to save his life, but his chances of winning were extremely slim. According to Ancestral Patriarch Azure Dragon, the Ruins of Immortality was vast, spanning hundreds of thousands of miles. There were billions of people, mostly monsters, beasts, and humans. The Ruins Emperor presided over the Ruins Emperor Palace and governed Sky Palace, White Moon Academy, and the Golden Crow Guards. There were hundreds of nascent soul heavenly lords. The continent of immortality used the system of provinces and counties. There were 6 divisions, each controlled by a god, which ruled billions of people. Currently, the human grand cultivators of the prosperous emperor era and the monster grand cultivators of the Ao Emperor era had been suppressed by the Ruins Emperor. Most of them died in battle, while the rest were reduced to slaves, dogs, or obedient citizens. The most popular ones were the immigrants led by Ao Emperor, who mainly came from the planet of the Southgate Twin Stars. Below the Ruins of Immortality were the West Desert, the Middle Fertile Land, the South Barbarian Land, the North Ice Plains, and the East Sea. Below the East Sea were the Dragon Gate, Ingzhou Penglai, and the North Sea. There were humans in these 4 immortal mountains, but they were in a secondary position. The Sea Demon clan was in a dominant position, such as the Merman clan, the Flood Dragon clan, the Kuan clan, the Whale clan, and the Sea Shark clan. The Dragon Gate governed Xie, Kanglin, and Tianqing, 3 Class 4-dimensional worlds. They were also the dimensional worlds closest to Earth. They directly shouldered the heavy responsibility of monitoring Earth. After the 4 of them finished speaking, a look of uneasiness appeared on their faces, as if they were prisoners waiting to be sentenced. Jiang Tian pondered for a while. Then, a cold light flashed in his eyes. "Actually, I'm not from the Ruins of Immortality. I'm from Earth." The schoolmaster of Tianqing School, Kong Teichu, was one of them. "My goal is the same as yours. I want to destroy the Ruins Emperor and seize my homeland." "What? You're actually immortal from Earth?" He came from the Earth realm, but he actually managed to kill Tathagata Datong and dominate the West Earth? He even killed Lei Meng. When the 4 of them heard this, their faces were filled with astonishment, as if they had heard the most inconceivable thing, and they were dumbstruck. "That's right." Mao Hongdai stepped forward and said crisply. The Taichu world Venerable did come from Earth through the dimensional barrier. Not only did he conquer West Earth, but he also conquered the heavenly state and Tianqing dimensional worlds. What? The four of them were even more shocked when they heard that. Then, they could not help but admire Jiang Tian to the extreme. Even in the ruins of immortality system, he could be considered a tycoon with three-dimensional worlds. It was an impressive achievement. Moreover, Jiang Tian had risen from Earth, where the spirit chi had been severely depleted, and it had only taken him a few years. One had to know that back then, the Ruins Emperor had the backing of the Southern Gate Twin Stars. He had deployed millions of cultivators to conquer many worlds in the ruins of immortality. Even so, he had taken an extremely long time. Almost every world he conquered took decades or even centuries. Patriarch True Dragon and the other three looked at each other. Suddenly, they had an epiphany. They bowed and said passionately, "We are willing to follow the Taichu world Venerable to conquer the ruins of immortality, slay the Ruins Emperor, destroy the Southern Gate Twin Stars, reclaim our homeland, and rebuild the heavenly court. We are not afraid of wearing golden armor in 100 battles. We will not return until we slay the Ruins Emperor." Good. Jiang Tian nodded. True Dragon, Mingi, Takong, and Lotus were all nascent soul experts. If he gave them some pointers, they could quickly break through to the true nascent soul realm and be known as heavenly lords. If Jiang Tian could get the four of them to help him, it would be equivalent to having four more pillars supporting the heavens. Even if he was not on Earth and the dimensional worlds attacked, they could defeat them with a flick of their fingers. They were invincible. Good. In the future, the revered one will be our master. No one will dare to disobey your orders. The four of them were delighted. Lotus Rulai was even more unbearable. He was extremely flattering as he shouted anxiously, "In the future, I, Lotus, will be Master's evil dog. I will bite whoever Master wants me to bite." It was not his fault. He had always been worried that the Ruins Emperor would attack West Earth one day. He was not doing it for himself, but to preserve the roots of the entire ancient Tianju race. He had given up his pride and self to curry favor with Jiang Tian. There was a hint of greatness in his humbleness. Okay. Jiang Tian nodded, and immediately began to deal with Lei Meng's corpse. Patriarch Azure Dragon, Old Monster Mingi, Lotus Rulai, and Patriarch Takong were all wise people. After a simple treatment, they immediately came over to help. Lei Meng was the strongest divine beast in the universe. He had cultivated to the nascent soul realm, so his body was full of treasures. Jiang Tian carefully peeled off his demon core that was surrounded by lightning and placed it in his storage ring. He would use it to condense a lightning elemental divine body in the future. Then he peeled off layers of scales. The scales could nurture and absorb lightning and withstand the high temperature of the lightning. If they were made into armor, it would not be afraid of a nascent soul expert or a nuclear weapon. After that, Jiang Tian cut off his tempest wings and 4 claws. They could be refined into flying and attacking true artifacts that were far superior to ordinary numinous treasures. Finally, Jiang Tian extracted all the bones in his body. They were as heavy as mountains and had the high temperature of the lightning. Jiang Tian was prepared to forge them into a lightning elemental offensive Dharma treasure for Zhang Qianlei. Zhang Qianlei had previously obtained Mjolnir, but it was far inferior to this. If he used Lei Meng's bones, his attack would be increased by 10 times. Finally, it was Lei Meng's flesh and blood. Lei Meng had a lifespan of 10,000 years and had devoured countless golden core experts. The spirit chi, blood essence, and energy contained within was vast and extremely pure. If a cultivator used it to refine pills, even if it was just one pill, it would be able to restrain all evil and filthy things. Furthermore, one's cultivation level would be raised to the extreme and contain lightning energy. However, Jiang Tian was not in a hurry to refine the pills. Instead, he used the myriad creation spirit art to extract the essence of all the flesh and blood. He would hand it over to Shinmange and company later, so that they could refine supreme pills on a large scale. Patriarch Azure Dragon and company were nimble. With their help, everything was quickly completed. At that moment, perfected Lord Azure Dragon suddenly revealed a troubled expression. "We all have the heart to pursue the revered one of the world. Unfortunately, I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to charge out of this spatial barrier. It turned out that when they first entered this world 1,000 years ago, they had wanted to persuade Lei Meng to join them in resisting the Ruins Emperor. However, Lei Meng turned against them, and only wanted to devour their Fey cores, resulting in a huge battle with them. Their teleportation portals had been destroyed in the battle with Lei Meng. Later on, they shook hands with Lei Meng and made peace. However, without a teleportation portal, they could not return to each other's dimensional worlds. This was also one of the reasons why they nurtured Lei Meng. It was not only to slay the Ruins Emperor, but also to rely on Lei Meng to break through the dimensional world's barriers. What's so difficult about that? Just follow me into West Earth and pass through West Earth to come to Earth. Jiang Tian smiled. On Earth, there are teleportation portals that can reach the star dimension. Many of the teleportation portals in the star dimension are also in the process of being repaired. I believe it's almost done. There's even an ancient teleportation portal at Hangu Pass that can reach the ruins of immortality. That's not right, Master. Our gate of creation has been branded with the soul and physical characteristics. To them, it's just a one-way teleportation portal. Mao Hongdai was perplexed. The four nodded in agreement. Such teleportation portals required one to leave their soul and brand on the teleportation portal and the spatial barrier before entering. Only on the return journey could they charge out of the spatial barrier and return to their original world. There was no possibility of entering another world through the teleportation portal without leaving their brand. Even Lei Meng could not do that. Therefore, he was in a hurry to break through to the nascent soul realm and wanted to use brute force to break through the spatial barrier. Jiang Tian's expression was calm as he chuckled. Hongdai, you think too highly of this teleportation portal. How can such a crude and primitive teleportation portal be a problem for me? With that said, Jiang Tian took out the teleportation portal and used the creation mystic art to immediately change the runes on it. The runes on the teleportation portal shone brightly and flickered. They quickly faded, multiplied and reformed, finally turning into even more complex runes. Soon, Jiang Tian removed the brand and modified the portal into a two-way teleportation portal. Under Jiang Tian's control, beams of colorful light enveloped the few of them. The gate of creation formed a spatial barrier. The supreme of the world's array formation skills are simply heaven-defying. Patriarch True Dragon and the others were shocked and could not believe it. The spatial barrier was created by the divine work of the ancient exuberant emperor. It was impossible to break through, but Jiang Tian was able to do it. Jiang Tian looked at the golden-winged eagle king and the many golden core perfected immortals of the North Sea domain, and smiled maliciously. If you return like this and report what happened today to the Ruins Emperor, I will be very passive and very worried. Please forgive me, Supreme of the world. I wouldn't dare. The golden-winged eagle king was already scared out of his wits. When he heard that, his face turned as white as a sheet and he almost cried. Chapter 1203. The situation took a turn for the worse. Originally, he was on Jiang Tian's side to deal with Lei Meng and the other old freaks. Who knew that Jiang Tian would kill Lei Meng in a blink of an eye, intimidate the old freaks and even form an alliance. Those old freaks and the West Earth revered one were plotting a rebellion. It was heaven-defying. That was a crime punishable by death. As for him, he was a king under the ruins of Immortality Emperor. How could Jiang Tian allow him to return to the ruins of immortality and leak the news? Taichu revered one, please allow me to report. Going back, my ancestor was also a subordinate of the Ao Emperor. My grandfather was also killed by the Ruins Emperor. The golden-winged eagle king knelt on the ground with tears streaming down his face. He clenched his fists tightly and said passionately, to be honest, I've long been dissatisfied with the Ruins Emperor. I've had thoughts of rebelling against slavery for quite some time. The impulse to kill the Ruins Emperor, destroy the Ruins Emperor's palace, and avenge my ancestors has always surfaced in my mind. Taichu revered one, I'm a golden core perfected immortal after all. If you don't mind, I'm willing to submit to you. I can be a spy in the Ruins Emperor's divine dynasty. Jiang Tian looked at him with a faint smile. Beside him, Patriarch True Dragon had a grim expression as he whispered, "Your Excellency, this kid's ancestor was one of the first batch of people to betray the AO Emperor and submit to the Ruins Emperor. He's truly a traitor's lackey. You must not show him any mercy. Kill them all." "It's fine." Jiang Tian smiled. "I can erase his memories and establish a soul contract with him. When we enter the Ruins of Immortality one day, this kid will immediately become our lackey. He's already a great perfected immortal with a powerful consciousness. How can his memories be erased so easily?" Patriarch True Dragon was shocked and in disbelief. Old Freakstyx River and Patriarch Takong were also worried. Lotus Rulai was even more vicious. "With your strength, why would you need a spy? Just charge into the Ruins of Immortality, destroy the Ruins Emperor's palace, and wash the Ruins of Immortality in blood. There's no need to keep this kid alive. I have my own plans." However, Jiang Tian didn't listen to them. His soul devourer erupted and directly wiped away the memories of the golden-winged Eagle King and everyone else. Furthermore, he established a soul contract with the golden-winged Eagle King. With his current strength, he could kill his way into the Ruins of Immortality and deal with nascent soul cultivators. However, it was barely enough to deal with the Ruins Emperor and the many soul formation experts. Besides, there was still the Earth realm that needed to be improved. After all, Jiang Tian was going to enter the Central Galaxy one day. Only by preserving the roots of the Earth, reviving the spirit Qi, laying down the eternal Taoist foundation, and turning the Earth into a cultivation planet could they be done once and for all. After all, even if Jiang Tian had reached the soul formation level, it would take a long time for him to travel from the Central Galaxy to Earth. Jiang Tian's soul devourer was growing stronger every second. Erasing the memories of a golden core cultivator was just a matter of seconds. In just a few breaths of time, the eyes of the golden-winged Eagle King and the others turned white. Their bodies trembled as they fell to the ground and fainted. Why is there so much blood? I remember coming here to pick up treasures. Where is he? What about Venerable Green Wolf? Where's Guangkuan?" A moment later, the golden-winged Eagle King was the first to wake up. He was shocked when he saw the blood around him and the messy ground. "Don't worry about that. Go back to your Ruins of Immortality," Jiang Tian said calmly with his hands behind his back. "You're just a 5th-level foundation establishment cultivator. How dare you order me around?" The golden-winged Eagle King had just woken up and was in a bad mood. After hearing what Jiang Tian said, his murderous intent rose and he approached Jiang Tian. "It doesn't work?" Old Monster Mingi was dumbfounded. "Why do you have to go through so much trouble? Kill them all." Old Rulai Lotus was instantly filled with murderous intent. "What's going on? This guy is so terrifying." However, the golden-winged Eagle King had just taken 2 steps when he felt extremely uneasy and he stopped. It was as if the person in front of him was not a 5th-level foundation establishment cultivator, but a peerless expert who was 10 times or 100 times stronger than the Ruins Emperor. A look of deep fear appeared on the golden-winged Eagle King's face. He could not help but kneel on the ground and cower like a quail. He said respectfully with a trembling voice, "This humble king pays his respects to the Lord and the other masters. If the Lord has any orders, this humble king will do his best to fulfill them." My lord really subdued him. Mingyi Zhenlong Liansheng and Ta Kong looked at each other in dismay. They could not believe it. They were shocked to the extreme. "Go back. Go back." Jiang Tian waved his hand. His soul devourer was so powerful that the divine soul contract made the golden-winged Eagle King submit to him like a servant seeing his master. "Yes, my lord." The golden-winged Eagle King stood up and shouted, "Get up and go back to your dimensional world." No one dared to disobey his orders. After they woke up, they immediately took out their portals and passed through the dimensional barrier, disappearing from the Thunderlock world. The golden-winged Eagle King also flew out of this world through the portal and disappeared from the dimensional barrier, returning to the Ruins of Immortality. "Let's go." Jiang Tian activated the Gate of Creation. Suddenly, there was a loud boom. A ray of light enveloped everyone and shot towards West Earth, leaving a mark of the Gate of Creation on the dimensional barrier. The Gate of Creation, along with Jiang Tian and the others, had already disappeared. After a few seconds, the mark on the dimensional barrier disappeared, and the entire Thunder Lock world returned to silence. All that was left was the ever-changing sky, which was emitting rays of strange light that illuminated the lonely tombs on the chaotic bone slope, as well as the divine general of the Western Heaven Gate sitting on the slope, and the battle flag that was fluttering in the wind. The fluttering flags seemed to be silently telling of the past glory of the magnificent Emperor era, the indomitable fighting spirit of those interstellar explorers, and the fearless bravery of those who had conquered the stars. Below the dimensional barrier, above Mount Thunder, this place used to be famous for its powerful thunder and lightning. The sky used to be filled with thick thunderbolts, forming a net that covered the entire Mount Thunder. However, half a month after Jiang Tian left West Earth, the lightning suddenly disappeared without a trace. There wasn't even a trace of it. The sky was clear and boundless. Then, crack. All of a sudden, the space cracked open, revealing a slightly damaged teleportation door. Surrounded by the others, Jiang Tian stepped out with his hands behind his back. He was wearing a black robe and looked calm, as if he were taking a stroll. The four old men behind Jiang Tian were in a mess. Their faces were pale, and they were trembling. They staggered as if they were drunk. You're nascent soul overlords after all. Why? Isn't it normal for you to travel through the dimensional barrier? Why are you in such a mess? Jiang Tian glanced at the four of them, and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Master, please don't laugh at us. We used to use special portals to travel through the dimensional barrier. It's the first time we've changed the portal and traveled in the opposite direction. For a moment, we've indeed made a fool of ourselves. Lotus Old Rulai had a flattering smile on his face as he nodded and bowed. Without leaving a divine soul and physique imprint on the portal in the dimensional world, traveling in the opposite direction by force was simply heaven-defying. Along the way, there were all kinds of strange phenomena in the dimensional barrier. Thunderbolts, dimensional fragments, cosmic gales, true star fires, and so on. Danger surrounded them, making it difficult for them to move. Although Jiang Tian had already used the power of the portal to create a dimensional barrier, and they weren't hurt, the four of them were still frightened. They felt as if they had walked through the gates of hell a few times. However, Master's array formation and ability to control space are indeed at the peak. Reversing the portal and breaking the dimensional barrier by force, opening a dimensional tunnel in the vast universe. Even the experienced nascent soul cultivators and half-step soul formation cultivators can't do such a thing. The four of them recalled the dangerous experiences along the way and couldn't help but feel scared. Ancestral Patriarch Takong was even more impressed by Jiang Tian. In fact, the distance between West Earth and the Thunder Lock was at least billions of kilometers. It was just that the dimensional barrier was connected. If one traveled through the connected dimensional barrier, the speed would be extremely fast and the travel time would be greatly reduced. Of course, the prerequisite was that one had to have a way to break the dimensional barrier. But in fact, this method of using spatial barriers was several times more difficult than directly crossing the void or traveling through the universe. After all, spatial barriers were extremely strict. Moreover, the barriers were filled with spatial fragments of unknown origins, backlash formations, and unfathomable chaotic force fields. There were even variant creatures that ran amok. So if one wanted to pass through the barriers, then one had to possess an extremely high attainment in formations and a deep comprehension and control of spatial energy. However, Jiang Tian only used a month to pass through the layers of dimensional storms, avoid the counterattack arrays, break through the chaotic force fields, kill countless strange creatures, and bring them across billions of kilometers to West Earth. How could they not be shocked and impressed? The four of them had lived for more than 1,000 years. They were experienced and had unique insight. Especially Ancestral Patriarch Takong, who was proficient in dimensional mystic arts, had already recognized it. Even though Jiang Tian's current cultivation level was still relatively weak compared to the Ruins Emperor, Jiang Tian would definitely grow into a towering tree in time to come. He would stand at the peak and look down on the ruins of immortality and the multidimensional worlds. The Ruins Emperor could only look up to him and be trampled under his feet. Sigh, I actually spent an entire month. When I attain phenomenal golden core, I believe I will be able to break through the dimensional barrier by force without using any teleportation arrays or dimensional portals. Furthermore, the time taken will be greatly reduced. Jiang Tian sighed regretfully. Mao Hongdia's expression remained calm when she heard that. She did not say a word and only widened her eyes to size up Jiang Tian's side profile. That was because all of that was too far away from her. She had no idea what Jiang Tian's words meant. Breaking through the dimensional barrier by force, without using a teleportation array. Master's strength is just too terrifying. However, Patriarch Takong was dumbfounded. He staggered and nearly fell to the ground. Throughout history, only soul formation cultivators could control the power of dimensional barrier and traverse the void with their bodies. If top nascent soul cultivators wanted to traverse through space, they would have to use dimensional mystic arts, or use mysterious cultivation techniques to strengthen their bodies and slow down the loss of their lifeblood. If a golden core cultivator were to do that, it would be no different from courting death. Jiang Tian's words were extremely exaggerated. It was as though he was saying that he would take the college entrance examination and become the top scholar when he was in 3rd grade. Shall we? It has been 2 months since I left Golden Rock Monastery. Let's hurry to Golden Rock Monastery to take a look. Jiang Tian said calmly. The sky was the dimensional barrier, and it was more than 10,000 miles high. However, Jiang Tian and the others were not leisurely at all. In a few hours, they were only 3,000 miles away from the ground. Thunder Mountain was already in sight. However, Jiang Tian glanced at Golden Rock Monastery with his immortal will and suddenly frowned. He said coldly, "It seems that Golden Rock Monastery is not peaceful. Is someone trying to rebel?" Before he finished his sentence, his eyes turned cold. He let go of Mao Hongdia's waist and turned into a black ray of light, flying towards Golden Rock Monastery. Lotus Rulai scanned with his divine consciousness, and was also shocked. He thumped his chest and stomped his feet. These bastards, they dare to challenge the Taichu World Venerable's authority when he's not around and take back the position of the Venerable of the world. They're courting death. Chapter 1204. After Jiang Tian went to the Thunderlock realm, Huoyan, Xiaolingyu, Mei Jiaonan, Whitebeard, Fan Luomei, Tang Linglong, and many other overlords stayed at the Golden Rock Temple and watched the changes in the sky above Mount Lane. Now, under Jiang Tian's display of kindness and power, the 4 great orthodoxies, Tingyu Pavilion Hahuan sect, Fire Worship sect and Changxing sect, had sincerely submitted to Jiang Tian. However, the Golden Rock Temple was the most unstable one. On one hand, the Golden Rock Temple was powerful and had many golden core overlords. Even if the other 4 orthodoxies worked together, they would not be able to defeat them. On one hand, it was because of their belief in the Buddhist sect, and they would definitely not accept someone like Jiang Tian, whose hands were stained with blood, to be their revered Buddha. One day, half a month after Jiang Tian left West Earth, the thunder and lightning above the Golden Rock Temple suddenly disappeared, and the clouds dispersed. It was extremely peaceful, and did not explode again. Did the Taichu World Overlord really kill Lei Meng? He's so powerful. In the Golden Rock Temple, in the square in front of the Thousand Buddha Hall, Huoyan was shocked and looked up at the sky. Everyone else also could not believe it. The Taichu World Overlord will be back soon. Everyone was full of anticipation. They all thought that Jiang Tian would come back immediately, but they did not expect to see Jiang Tian after waiting for another month. Why hasn't the Taichu World Overlord returned after 2 months? Could it be that something unexpected happened? Xiaolingyu, on the other hand, had a gloomy expression. He was a little anxious. Hearing this, Whitebeard also revealed a somewhat trembling expression. He clenched his fists tightly again. Logically speaking, Jiang Tian would not stay inside for so long. After all, Jiang Tian's plan was to return to West Earth immediately if he did not gain anything. If he gained something, Jiang Tian would not cultivate in seclusion but return immediately. According to the previous records, it would only take half a month to travel between the 2 realms. Therefore, no matter how he looked at it, Jiang Tian should not have wasted so much time. What he didn't know was that Jiang Tian had brought 5 people back this time. Moreover, they had traveled in the opposite direction, forcibly breaking through the space barrier. Naturally, it would take a longer time. The beautiful man also revealed a shocked expression and said with a trembling voice, "Everyone, the monks on the mountain don't seem to be very stable recently. They've been sneaking around every day, and they've even set up soundproof barriers. It seems like they're plotting something. If something happens to the Taichu world venerable, then..." The old man guessed that the spatial passage of the Thunder Lock might have become unstable after 1,000 years. There might even be spatial fragments obstructing it. That's why the Taichu world venerable took so long. Huoyan forced a smile and comforted everyone. Yes, everyone should have confidence in the Taichu world venerable. Even Tathagata Datang is no match for him, so who can? Fan Luomei also encouraged him. Yes. Hold on for a few more days and don't panic. I'm sure the Taichu sect master will be back soon. Just as everyone was nodding their heads and feeling a little more at ease. Haha, sect master Huoyan, don't you have too much confidence in Kong Taichu? Suddenly, a mocking laugh was heard as a monk walked up to the top of the golden peak. The monk's body was huge, and the Buddhist light behind him was in the shape of a ring. There were 9 rays of Buddhist light in total, indicating that he was a perfected golden core grand immortal. The virtuous guardian. Huoyan's face suddenly tensed and his pupils contracted. He immediately realized that the visitor was not friendly. He saw dozens of perfected golden core eminent monks behind the virtuous guardian. They were all guardians, bodhisattvas, vajras, arhats, and the chiefs of the various halls. The virtuous guardian was the senior brother of Tathagata Datang and the old bodhisattva. Later, he lost his position as the bodhisattva and became the left guardian of the Golden Rock Temple. He was powerful and famous, and his status and power were only a little lower than Tathagata Datang. Huoyan was also experienced. After Jiang Tian left, he immediately ordered the senior members of the Golden Rock Temple not to gather or communicate with their immortal consciousnesses. They all stayed in their own rooms and were not allowed to take a step out. These days, Huoyan and the others had been strictly monitoring, and everything had been peaceful. But now many senior members of the Golden Rock Temple had gathered and came to the Golden Peak aggressively. They were obviously here to cause trouble. Thinking of this, Huoyan activated his divine power, and a few fire dragons surrounded him. He asked coldly, "Day Dharma Protector, have you forgotten the rules set by this cult master? Who allowed you to leave your monastic abode? Who allowed you to meet in person? Do you take my words for granted? Huoyan, if you kneel down and surrender now and kill Kong Taichu's henchmen with your own hands, you may live," the virtuous guardian said mockingly. "Are you trying to rebel?" Huoyan sneered and said. "Have you forgotten the power of the Taichu world lord? Have you forgotten how you were trembling at his feet? My cultivation is naturally not as good as Kong Taichu's." The virtuous guardian shook his head and said mockingly, "Do you know that Kong Taichu has already become a pile of bones and died in the Thunder Lock?" "What?" Tang Linglong scolded. "Nonsense. My master's cultivation is incredible, and he is extremely talented. Who can kill him? Even a nascent soul cultivator is no match for him." She stared at the virtuous guardian and said coldly, "I don't want to kill in the sacred grounds of the Buddhist sect. Get back to your room, or don't blame me for being ruthless. Don't be angry, benefactor. I'm not cursing your master. I'm just stating a fact," the virtuous guardian said calmly. He then glanced at everyone and said, "Do you remember Lotus Old Rulai?" "Of course. Lotus Old Rulai is an experienced nascent soul cultivator." Huoyan felt that something was wrong. His pupils shrank and he immediately said, "However, rumor has it that he has already died in the Thunder Lock for thousands of years. His divine soul should have been destroyed. Why are you mentioning him? Lotus Old Rulai is not dead." The virtuous guardian's words were shocking. "Where is he?" Xiaoling Yu was so scared that her body tensed up. The countless raindrops around her immediately turned into cold rain swords and aimed at the monks. "Oh my God! An experienced nascent soul cultivator is still alive. Don't scare me." The beautiful man jumped up in fright and hid behind Huoyan. He pulled on his sleeve and trembled. "Lotus Old Rulai. Everyone else's expression changed drastically. Cold sweat broke out on their foreheads, as if they were facing a great enemy. Therefore, all of you are wise and farsighted. You should make a wise choice between stubbornly resisting and seeking your own death, or making peace with the Golden Rock Temple. The virtuous guardian was very satisfied with the result. He chuckled and looked at everyone condescendingly as if they were ants. Lotus Old Rulai. He wasn't as kind and benevolent as Buddha Old Rulai. Instead, he was ferocious and angry. Back then he was brave and good at fighting. He suppressed the entire West Earth and made thousands of sects submit to him. Who wouldn't obey him when he set the rules for the open meeting? Who would dare to fight him? Moreover, he was an experienced nascent soul cultivator. It had been at least 500 years. It was possible that he had broken through to the nascent soul level by now. Buddha Old Rulai was just his grand disciple. He was good at defending his achievements but not aggressive enough. It had only been 100 years since he broke through to the nascent soul level. How could he compare with Lotus Old Rulai in terms of strength, cultivation, achievements, and tactics? Bluff. Huayan forced himself to remain calm. He straightened his body and put his hands behind his back. If he was still alive, why would he wait until now? He wouldn't have watched the Taichu world venerable massacre the Golden Rock Temple and trample all of you under his feet. Huayan, don't you find it strange? The virtuous guardian looked at him mockingly and said, "You only know bits and pieces about the Thunder Lock. Actually, I told you most of it." Everyone looked at Huayan in surprise. Huayan didn't hide it and smiled awkwardly. "That's right. I only heard that there was a dimensional world near West Earth, but I didn't know the details. Later, it was the virtuous guardian who found me and told me many details about the history of the Thunder Lock and the Gate of Creation." He looked at Buddha Old Rulai and said mockingly, "This virtuous guardian wants to be the successor of this virtuous guardian. This virtuous protector wants to become the next Rulai, and wants me to put in a good word for him in front of the Taichu world venerable. You're obviously a monk, but you're so obsessed with fame and fortune. You're greedy, angry, and obsessed. What a joke, what a pity." The virtuous guardian's expression didn't change at all. "But don't you find it strange? If this is true, why didn't I tell the Taichu world venerable myself? You're too involved with the Golden Rock Temple. I'm afraid that he won't believe you." Huayan's face froze and then snorted. "Yes, I'm afraid that he won't believe me or won't dare to enter." The virtuous guardian sneered. "Because Lotus Old Rulai is waiting for him inside. He'll only enter if you say so." Huayan's expression changed drastically. The flames around him expanded and contracted rapidly, and his aura became unstable. But he still forced himself to calm down and sneered. "It's just Lotus Old Rulai. Even if Lotus Old Rulai is there, the Taichu world venerable might not be his match." But at this moment, everyone realized that Huayan didn't have much confidence. In fact, at this moment, everyone had lost their confidence. Lotus Old Rulai was a veteran nascent soul cultivator. Even 10 or 100 Taichu wouldn't be his match. What's more, there was a rumor that there was an extremely powerful lightning-type divine beast there, as well as a vile and complicated environment. If Lotus Old Rulai had really been there for hundreds of years, he would have been very familiar with it. He also had the home ground advantage, and could set up many traps to catch Jiang Tian off guard. That's right. One isn't enough. What if there are 4 veteran nascent soul cultivators? Protector Datong's face was full of mockery. Moreover, there's a thunder mantis with nascent soul cultivation inside. You don't know what a thunder mantis is. A thunder mantis is the strongest divine beast in the universe. It's on the same level as the winged dragon and the vermilion bird. A thunder mantis at the nascent soul level is so powerful that it can kill a nascent soul cultivator. He laughed proudly and said, "Ha ha ha, if you knew this, you would have stopped your Taichu world venerable. But you're too ignorant to let him in. You pushed him into the fire pit with your own hands." Plop. Hearing this, the beautiful man couldn't support himself anymore and sat on the ground. Tears rolled down his face as he muttered, "How can the Taichu world venerable die? After all, he's so handsome." Chapter 1205. Everyone's hearts were trembling. Their faces were ashen, and cold sweat poured down like rain. Their biggest backer was Jiang Tian. If Jiang Tian died, it would be hard to predict the outcome of the battle between them and Golden Rock Temple. Tang Linglong, on the other hand, was furious. She shouted, "Despicable and shameless bastard! How dare you lie about my master? I'm going to kill you." However, Li Wuji stopped her firmly and said earnestly, "Girl, you're no match for him. He's at the peak of the Gold Core realm, a perfected immortal." Huayan had already believed most of it. He regretted that he had fallen into a trap in order to win the favor of the Taichu world's master. But he did not want to give up his last hope. He said coldly, "Virtuous guardian, since you think the Taichu world's master is dead, Lotus Rulai should be back soon. Then we'll fight it out. Why are you in such a hurry?" The number of Golden Core cultivators on the Golden Peak was more than the 4 orthodoxies combined. If they were to fight, their chances of victory were slim. Only death awaited them. Kong Taichu is too stupid. The virtuous protector smiled proudly and said, "He doesn't know how dangerous the Thunder Lock is. Does he think he can dominate the Thunder Lock just because he defeated West Earth?" His eyes were full of disdain as he sneered. "Does he think we'll surrender after he killed the Taichu world's master and destroyed the 8-division Heavenly Dragon? He underestimated the power of Golden Rock Temple. He doesn't know that Lotus Rulai is still alive. Besides, Lotus Rulai has many nascent soul allies waiting for him in the Thunder Lock." "I don't believe it." Tang Linglong shook her head with tears in her eyes. "If Lotus Rulai is still alive, why didn't he come out of the Thunder Lock to kill? Because Lotus Rulai wants to feed Kong Taichu to Lei Meng. He's afraid that Kong Taichu will explode his golden core. Only by luring Kong Taichu into the Thunder Lock and having the 4 nascent soul cultivators and Lei Meng attack together will we have the highest chance of winning," the virtuous protector said in disdain. His words sent chills down Tang Linglong's spine. What was even more frightening was that she could already feel that many senior monks were ready to make a move and were staring at her with murderous intent. They all knew that Tang Linglong was Jiang Tian's disciple. They couldn't kill Jiang Tian, but they could vent their anger by killing Jiang Tian's favorite disciple. "I advise you all to be rational." Fan Luomei held back the tears that were about to fall. She took a step forward and said proudly, "Even if Grand Primordium has fallen, you may not win if the 4 orthodoxies go to war with Golden Rock Temple." She sighed in sorrow and regret. Kong Taichu could be said to be an existence that created a new world in West Earth. His talent was astonishing, and he had refreshed many historical records. In a short time he was invincible. He killed Ming Rui, took control of the Changshan sect, defeated Golden Rock Temple, killed Buddha Datong and stood at the top of the Golden Peak, looking down on thousands of sects and suppressing West Earth. He was the lord of the world. Such a domineering aura, such power and such peerless charm could be said to be able to suppress all the talents and elites in history. But in the end, however, a single careless move caused them to lose the whole game. Their foundation of 10,000 generations and their immortal reputation were destroyed in the hands of a few treacherous villains. They left behind 1,000 years of hatred in vain, causing one to wring their hands and sigh. "No, you're wrong. We still have an experienced nascent soul cultivator who can still suppress you." The virtuous protector chuckled, then knelt on the ground with a respectful expression. He shouted to the sky, "Disciple Datong welcomes Uncle Master Xianku Little Rulai. Disciple welcomes Little Rulai, Little Rulai." On the Golden Peak, many senior monks knelt on the ground and shouted respectfully, "Disciple welcomes Little Rulai, Little Rulai." Then 100,000 senior monks on Arhat Mountain, Commandment Mountain, Skill Teaching Mountain and Scripture Mountain knelt on one knee and shouted together. His voice was like a surging thunderclap that shot into the sky, and it was like a tempestuous wave that swept out in all directions and shook a few hundred kilometers away. "Is Little Rulai, Xianku, coming out of seclusion? He's back. This time, Kong Taichu and his henchmen are really finished." Immediately, countless people raised their heads to look. Their hearts trembled violently, and they were filled with fear and shock. "That's Little Rulai. He's still alive and is going to attack." If he had attacked back then, Kong Taichu wouldn't have been able to kill Buddha Datong. "Kong Taichu is going to die this time." This was especially true for those whose relatives and friends had died in the battle against the demons in Maolin City, or in the Great Purge after Jiang Tian had ascended to the position of the world-revered one. They were even more excited. Their faces were full of excitement as they clapped and cheered. Little Rulai had a great background. He was Little Rulai Xianxi's junior brother, Buddha Datong's senior uncle, Buddha Lotus's favorite disciple, and the first demon to achieve Tao. According to legend, he was a black-scaled python that had cultivated for thousands of years in the southern barbarian kingdom. Later, he was enlightened by Buddha Lotus and became a disciple of Golden Rock Temple. His Dharma name was Xianku. He was extremely talented and cultivated to the nascent soul realm in a short time, transforming into a human form. His cultivation was even stronger than old Rulai Xianxi. However, he was a demon cultivator after all. Even though he was strong, he still didn't obtain the position of Buddha or Rulai. 1,000 years ago, Xianxi succeeded the position of Rulai, and was called the Lord of the World. Xianku was angry and injured Xianxi. He went to the barren land of the southern border and founded Little Thunder Mountain. He called himself Little Rulai, and his disciples were all senior monks of the demon race. Little Thunder Mountain cultivated Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. They only wanted to save themselves and not others. They didn't care about worldly affairs and didn't participate in disputes. They didn't interact with Golden Rock Temple. So many people had forgotten about Xianku's existence. However, Huiyan and the others knew that if Xianku and Little Thunder Mountain came out, they would definitely be able to suppress the Chongqing sect, Fire Worship sect, and the other three great orthodoxies. He's going to fight for Golden Rock Temple. Huiyan's expression changed drastically. His body tensed up as if he was facing a great enemy. Whitebeard's expression was also unprecedentedly serious. If Xianku was still alive, he would have lived a long life. He was also an experienced nascent soul cultivator, who was not far from becoming a real nascent soul heavenly lord. How could Whitebeard defeat him? Fairy Luome, we're in big trouble this time. Fan Luome was puzzled. Suddenly, there were screams from the crowd. She quickly looked up at the sky and saw. I'm Xianku. I'm going to kill Kong Teichu's henchmen today. I'm going to save the world and restore the righteous path. At this time, under the shocked gaze of everyone on the Golden Peak, an eminent monk suddenly appeared in the sky above the Golden Peak. His body was huge. He put his palms together, and his loose monk robe fluttered like a yellow flag. He was already in human form, but his demonic golden vertical pupils and tattoo-like black scales on his skin proved that he had the blood of a python. Before he arrived, the violent power of Buddha had already arrived. Everyone felt that their bones were cracking as if they were about to fall apart. Hiss! Xianku! Whitebeard looked desperate. He staggered backward and gasped as if he had a toothache. Xianku, you've already been kicked out of Golden Rock Temple. Why do you want to get involved in this mess today? Xiaolingyu stepped forward and said, we're in the same place. You and I are both in the Southern Territory. Usually, the small Thunder Mountain and the Tingyu Tower have a close relationship. Do you have to fall out with them today? He was also trying to sow discord between Xianku and Golden Rock Temple. He wanted to defeat Golden Rock Temple without a fight. You're friends with me. What right do you have? Xianku looked proud and his tone was sarcastic. His eyes were as sharp as knives. He roared. I don't need to explain my actions to a nobody like you. You're not allowed to comment. Die. He just waved his sleeve casually. Suddenly, a horrible black demon aura rolled down like a waterfall, sweeping the world and bombarding Xiaolingyu. Sword Rain River. Xiaolingyu was flustered and exasperated. He swung his sword. When this sword slashed out, it was different from his usual desolate, cold, and desolate state. Torrential water vapor transformed into a surging river, crashing towards the black demonic aura. Using softness as strength, it was extremely violent. Unfortunately, the black demon aura turned into a giant python shadow. It opened its bloody mouth and sucked the torrential sword chi and Xiaolingyu into its stomach like a whale sucking in water. The demon aura python dharma form withdrew, and its divine sense spread out. Everyone was shocked to see that. Xiaolingyu's Taoist robe had been corroded and torn. It was stained with blood and his breath was dry. He was on the verge of death. He had been seriously injured. With one strike, Xiaoling Yu was defeated. Little Rulai Xianku's power was terrifying. No wonder he was the #1 demon cultivator in the world and Lotus Rulai's favorite disciple. At this moment, everyone was horrified. Their bodies were on the verge of collapsing. Even Huayan couldn't hold on. His legs were weak. Xiaoling Yu was already a top-notch expert, but he still couldn't win in one strike. If they went up, they would only die. Benefactors, how long do you want to resist? Xianku's face was hideous, and his vertical pupils were cold. I have the virtue of cherishing life and don't want to kill. However, if you don't know what's good for you, I can only kill you one by one until you surrender. Everyone was dead silent. Many people were struggling, and their faces gradually turned pale. Their hearts wavered. If Jiang Tian was still alive, even if little Rulai Xianku forced them to surrender, they could still hold on for a while. However, all signs showed that the Taichu World Venerable might have already died. What was the point of holding on? Huayan, kneel down and surrender. Xianku's eyes were filled with disdain as he shouted coldly, the Taichu World Venerable treated me like a parent. I'd rather die than surrender. A flame rushed up from the golden peak. In the void, a white-haired old man appeared. The old man had a white beard and white hair. He was so old that he was beyond recognition, but his back was still straight, and his body was surrounded by flames. All right, I'll fulfill your wish. Xianku's vertical pupils gave off 2 cold rays as he raised his hand and smacked down on Huayan. Boom. A 1,000-meter-long black palm covered in scales appeared. It was like a huge dark cloud that covered the sky and pressed down. Kill. Huayan's hair and beard stood up. In his dantian, the fire lotus spewed out and transformed into 9 mighty fire dragons. They shook their heads and wagged their tails, baring their fangs and claws as they rushed into the sky. However, they were still no match. Boom. Under the pressure of the giant palm, which was as heavy as a mountain, the 9 fire dragons crumbled and disappeared like paper. Huayan couldn't dodge in time, and was heavily smacked down by the huge palm. The crisp sound of bones breaking rang out as Huayan sank deep into the ground. The entire golden peak shook as though there was an earthquake. When the huge palm of demonic aura dissipated, everyone was shocked to see what had happened. Huayan's bones had been broken, and his body was bleeding profusely. He was almost a meat patty, unconscious and on the verge of death. In that instant, the entire place was dead silent. No one dared to refute him. Many strong practitioners lowered their arrogant heads. Deeply awed by little Rulai Xianku's peerless power, they suppressed him and didn't dare to fight him head-on. Chapter 1206. At this moment, everyone was shocked by the ferocious little Rulai Xianku. Huayan was undoubtedly the most powerful among them, but even he couldn't defeat him. Their last hope was gone. Disciple surrenders. Disciple was forced by Jiang Taichu. The beautiful man knelt on the ground and cried. His body trembled. Fear seemed to be contagious. Soon after, many of the experts present knelt on the ground and bowed their heads in submission, keeping quiet out of fear. They were only Foundation Establishment and Golden Core cultivators. How would they dare to face a quasi-heavenly lord who had formed his nascent soul for hundreds of years? In the end, even Fan Luomei was forced to kneel. He tried his best to persuade him that if he continued to resist, he would only die. Staying alive was more important. Where there's life, there's hope. In an instant, the Golden Peak was full of people kneeling. Even Lady Wu and Yi Karen didn't kneel, but they lowered their heads and didn't dare to refute. You are all wise people. Xianku was complacent. He laughed and said, I can sense Master Lotus Tathagata's telepathy. Although we're separated by the dimension barrier, I can still feel it. Old Lotus Tathagata will be back soon. He revealed a look of deep mockery. How can Kong Taichu be compared to Master Lotus Tathagata? How can a grain of rice compete with the sun and the moon? One is in the sky and the other is on the ground. The difference is like heaven and earth. I'm afraid that Jiang Taichu has already been reduced to ashes by Lotus Rulai, his body and soul destroyed. Everyone was shocked. Some were shocked, some were afraid, some were regretful and some were sad, but they had to accept this reality. Indeed, Lotus Tathagata was a veteran nascent soul cultivator, and was many times more powerful than Datong Tathagata. Even if Kong Techu could kill Datong, what could it prove? He was only a fake core cultivator. No matter how strong he was still an insurmountable gap between him and a veteran nascent soul cultivator. Besides, Lotus Tathagata had a few veteran nascent soul cultivators as helpers and Lei Meng. He even had the home advantage. Kong Techu had no choice but to die in the face of such a deadly trap. When Lotus Tathagata returns, he will definitely push Golden Rock Temple to a new height and achieve new glory. Xianku was high up in the air, looking down at the Golden Peak and the warriors kneeling on the ground. He couldn't help but smile proudly. This time, he had made a great contribution. Lotus Tathagata would indeed sit on the position of Tathagata for a few years to stabilize the situation, but he would definitely pass the position of Tathagata to him. At that time he was already in control of West Earth, standing proudly at the peak, overlooking the world with unparalleled authority. The demon cultivator became Tathagata, and was known as the revered one of the world. He created the world, and left his name in history. It would definitely spread throughout the entire West Earth. At this moment, everyone submitted. However, Tang Linglong did not. Under the shocked gazes of countless people, she stepped into the air and unleashed her blazing bone sword, sweeping across the world. With a murderous aura, she shouted sternly, "Taichu World Honorable's disciple, Tang Linglong, would like to experience your skills." "No, Miss Linglong." Huoyan shouted and struggled to get up, but he was too injured and couldn't even stand up. This girl is crazy." Beside him, Whitebeard beat his chest and stamped his feet. Li Wuji also sighed. "Linglong, calm down. Fairy Luo may try to stop her, but she failed." Tang Linglong brushed past her and soared into the sky. At this moment, many experts who had already submitted had changed their attitudes. Although they were submissive, there was a hint of mockery in their eyes. Many of them were jealous of Tang Linglong for relying on Jiang Tian's power to strut around West Earth and obtain countless resources. Seeing this scene, they sneered in their hearts. "When Kong Techu was around, he could protect you. Now that he's dead, who do you think you are?" Xianku looked at her with interest and said, "You're Kong Techu's disciple. You're only in the foundation establishment stage. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you?" "What's there to be afraid of?" Tang Linglong soared into the sky. There were tears in her eyes and she was determined to fight. She said coldly, "Xianku, today, either you die or I live. If I can't kill you, I'll die. It seems that you're the same as your master. You don't know what's good for you." Xianku's face was full of mockery. "The way of cultivation is ruthless. You have a strong will to fight, but your cultivation is not enough. What can you change if you die? I'd rather die than surrender." At this time, Tang Linglong had already come close. 24 bone swords burst out and connected head to tail, forming a fire dragon about 100 meters long. She shouted, "Some things are more precious than life. You're just a long worm without limbs. What do you know? Bitch. How dare you disrespect me?" Xianku was enraged. He grinned ferociously and murderous intent emerged in his eyes. He said coldly, "Fine. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish today." Boom. Xianku pushed out a palm and his divine power exploded. Endless monster vitality turned into a 1,000-meter-long black python. It danced in the sky and covered the sun. It roared and swallowed the burning bone swords. Then, the black python suddenly turned its head and stood up like a human. Its vertical eyes were cold and terrifying. It opened its bloody mouth and bit toward Tang Linglong. At this moment, no one dared to stop him. The entire Golden Peak and the entire Thunder Mountain were dead silent. Some people lowered their heads in shame, some sighed, and even more people turned their heads away, unable to bear to watch this scene. At this moment, Tang Linglong stood proudly in the void. She did not look at the python that was about to swallow her. Instead, she looked up at the sky. Her heart was calm, fearless, and calm. She even had a faint sense of anticipation. It was as if he had forgotten the threat of death that was close at hand, forgotten this bizarre and variegated West Earth, and forgotten his parents and family on Earth. At this moment in her mind, There was only that tall and dignified figure that stood aloof from the world. Master, are you really dead? Don't be too lonely. I'm here to accompany you. Even though she was crying, she smiled and said softly. At this moment, Yi Karen, Li Wuji, Yen, Bai Su and Fan Luomei gritted their teeth and clenched their fists. At this moment, Xian Ku, Guardian Datong and the others laughed like a group of demons. At this moment, more people shook their heads and sighed. They were speechless. But when the black python opened its mouth and was about to swallow the girl, a sparkling and translucent finger appeared out of thin air, and it stretched across the sky and firmly stopped the enormous head of the black python that could swallow the heavens, devour the earth and crush mountains, causing it to be unable to move in the slightest. A voice that was as calm as an ancient well resounded in everyone's ears. How dare you kill the disciple of Kong Teichu? Everyone couldn't believe what they saw. A young man in black clothes with long hair that draped over his shoulders stood proudly in the air. His finger was like an enormous pillar that could hold up the heavens and the earth, and it forcefully stopped the head of the black python. He didn't use his Dharma power, so he was as small as a speck of dust in front of the 1,000-meter black python. But in Tang Linglong's eyes he was 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times bigger than the black python Dharma power. It was Jiang Tian. He had returned. Master, you're back. Tang Linglong couldn't believe it. Tears of joy rolled down her cheeks. She had also thought that Jiang Tian had died. She had fallen from heaven to hell, only to see Jiang Tian come back from the dead. This huge psychological gap caused the girl who had poured all her tender feelings for Jiang Tian to be unable to bear it. Not only Tang Linglong but even Fan Luomei, Yi Karen, Yen, Bai Su and Xiaoling Yu widened their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. He's back. How is that possible? That Leisha is surrounded by a pack of wolves. Fan Luomei and the others rubbed their eyes. Their minds were in a mess and they couldn't think of a reason. You're Kong Teichu? The demonic monk Xian Ku was slightly stunned, and then he sized up Jiang Tian. A trace of dense ridicule flashed in his eyes as he said, yes, he's a fake core cultivator, but he's just an ordinary person on Earth. The Buddha has the 8-dragon Dharma treasure, but he died in your hands. How useless. You weren't killed by my master. That's impossible. Did he take you in as his servant? He had already keenly sensed his master's aura. He was above the sky of West Earth, but there was still some distance between him and the Golden Peak. He wouldn't be able to reach it in a short time. In his opinion, Jiang Tian had no chance of winning. The only possibility was that Lian Sheng valued him as a talent and took him in as a subordinate. He took me in as his servant? Are you kidding me? Are you looking down on me, Kong Teichu? Jiang Tian said with a smile. In the eyes of Kong Teichu, Master Lotus is just a dog. Everyone furrowed their brows when they heard this. Master Lotus is about to return. How dare he say that? Everyone felt a huge Buddha's power exploding in the sky. Although it was far away, it was heavy, clear, and magnificent. The monks were not lying. If Master Lotus was about to return, how could Jiang Tian be his opponent? Ordinary person on Earth, you are indeed powerful. But you shouldn't humiliate my master. The demonic monk Xian Ku's golden eyes were cold. Humiliate? It's already a compliment to say that he's my dog. After all, I didn't call him trash. Jiang Tian's face and tone were calm, but the sarcasm in his words shocked everyone. They kept shaking their heads. How dare you? How dare you disrespect my master? I'll kill you. Xian Ku's murderous intent rose. His figure flickered and with a loud rumble, a man and a black python moved together, charging toward Jiang Tian. When the python opened its mouth to bite, Jiang Tian flicked his finger. Crack. Spiderweb-like cracks started to spread from the head to the body of the 1,000-meter-long giant python, covering its entire body in the blink of an eye. Rumble. Rumble. The black python exploded from head to tail like a string of firecrackers. Hm. Xian Ku exclaimed softly, a look of surprise appearing on his face. No wonder you could kill Datong. You're really powerful. But in the next moment, his demonic vertical pupils revealed a strong sense of greed as he laughed maniacally. He laughed and said, but you know what? My divine soul Dharma form is just a supplement. It doesn't matter if I break it. I haven't used my full strength yet. If I use my full strength, you won't be able to withstand a single blow. He roared and his voice echoed in 100 miles. Your fake elixir is very powerful. If I swallow it, it will be a great supplement. Die. Chapter 1207. No wonder he is the strongest demon cultivator. The little Rulai of the Lesser Thunderclap Mountain. He didn't use his full strength just now. Everyone saw that his Dharma form was destroyed, but his Dantian was still as strong as a rock. They were shocked and in disbelief. Die. Whoosh. Xianku moved like lightning. The space under his feet seemed to shrink as he appeared in front of Jiang Tian. His body bent backward like a huge bow. His spine was like a dragon, and his left fist was like an angry arrow that was about to be shot. Due to their bloodline, demon cultivators were still strong even in human form. Their close combat abilities were terrifying. Their punches and kicks were strong and powerful. They had the power to break mountains and destroy cities. They were unstoppable. When he punched out, the friction between his fist and the air caused flames to burst out like comets. Taichu World Senior, be careful. What a terrifying punch. Huo Yan and the others paled. They were so worried for Jiang Tian. Fan Luomei even screamed in fright. Vajra is invincible. His fist is like Vajra, destroying everything. This fist technique can only unleash its greatest power in the hands of Senior Xianku. The virtuous monk and the other monks looked at each other and smiled proudly. It was as if victory was in their hands and they were determined to win. This is your full strength. I hope you have something else up your sleeve. Otherwise, I'll be disappointed. Just when everyone thought that Jiang Tian was going to panic and deal with it, they heard Jiang Tian laugh lightly and meet the attack with a punch. He's actually using his physical body to resist. Instead of using the power of his Dharma idol that he's best at, he's throwing an egg at a rock. Idiot. He doesn't know his place. The virtuous monk and the rest laughed as if Jiang Tian was already a dead man. Demon cultivators had special bloodlines and strong physical bodies. Therefore, demon cultivators usually relied on their physical bodies to win. Jiang Tian's fighting style was obviously using his weakness to attack his opponent's strength. Indeed, Jiang Tian's punch looked ordinary and unadorned. However, Xianku's pupils shrank as he cursed inwardly. Not good. With his 1,000 years of combat experience, he had already judged that Jiang Tian's punch was definitely not that simple. However, Jiang Tian's punch was too fast, and it was too late for him to withdraw his fist. All that could be heard was the sound of bones breaking and bursting. Xianku's arm, which was covered in scales and could withstand a nuclear weapon, exploded like tofu under Jiang Tian's punch. The explosion started from the tip of his fist and continued all the way to his shoulder. Whoosh! Blood dyed the sky red like a tide. Under the unstoppable force, Xianku's tall body was blown away like a missile. Boom! 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 He crashed into mountains, palaces, temples, and Buddha statues. Giant mushroom clouds rose into the air. After flying for dozens of miles, he finally stopped after crashing into something. Impossible. He didn't even use his Dharma idol. He was able to send Xianku flying with just his physical body. Everyone was stunned and couldn't believe it. Guardian Datong's smile froze on his face, and he couldn't smile anymore. Many eminent monks looked as if they were constipated. They were very confident in the strength of Xianku's body, especially since he was an experienced nascent soul cultivator who had merged his divine powers with his body. His attacks were indeed earth-shattering. Not to mention Jiang Tian, who only had a body of flesh and blood. Even if 1,000 zhang tall mountain was here, it would still explode. And yet, they had never thought that this would be the outcome. This is impossible. 30 miles away from the Commandment Mountain, Xianku leaped up from the flying rocks in the air. He was both frightened and furious. He roared furiously. After a few seconds, he dashed over and threw out another punch. Jiang Tian didn't move at all. He only threw a punch when his fist was about to hit Xianku's head. This punch was still ordinary and simple, but it actually arrived first, landing on Xianku's chest. Bang! Xianku couldn't dodge it even if he wanted to. Even though his black python ground shrinking art was one of the top divine powers in West Earth, he still couldn't dodge it. Poof! This punch landed squarely on Xianku's chest. Xianku's sternum was broken into countless pieces, and a clear fist mark appeared on his back. Xianku opened his mouth and spat out blood like crazy. The blood he spat out like an arrow, along with many pieces of broken bones and internal organs. Then he flew out again and smashed into a mountain peak. His waist was hit hard and almost broke. He rolled for a long distance between the mountain peaks before coming to a stop. This time, after 10 seconds, Xianku struggled to get up. His bones were broken, and he was covered in blood. He looked extremely miserable. How dare you call yourself Buddha, the little overlord? Jiang Tian stood in the air with his hands behind his back and looked at him, as if he were looking at an ant. You're just a little worm. Who gave you the courage? Who gave you the confidence? Do you think you can kill me and bully my disciple? The entire Golden Peak fell silent. Dead silence. Dead silence. Everyone was flabbergasted, unable to utter a single word. What happened in front of them was too shocking and ironic. When Xianku arrived, he was confident and he treated Jiang Tian as an ant. But then he had been beaten so badly that he couldn't even stand up. Moreover, Xianku's physical body was powerful, but Jiang Tian didn't use any divine abilities from start to finish, only using his physical body. It could be said that Xianku's face was slapped to the extreme, his face swollen. I've been in seclusion for 500 years and finally formed the heavenly monster body. My Dharma form and body have merged. How can you defeat me? Xianku shouted. His eyes were full of anger and viciousness. He couldn't accept such humiliation and defeat. He ran towards Chenfan. However, slap. Jiang Tian didn't use his fists anymore. He directly slapped him in the face, sending him flying several kilometers away. Jiang Tian's movements looked simple and didn't have much strength, but Xianku couldn't take it. He couldn't even dodge it. Slap. 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 Xianku stood up again and again, but he was slapped by Jiang Tian again and again. Ah. 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 Xianku's eyes were bloodshot. He bared his teeth and roared in anger. He was going crazy. He was the little Rulai who had defeated the previous Rulai, Xian Ci. He had created the world and was invincible. He was respected by hundreds of millions of demons. He had never been in such a sorry state before. He was sent flying by a person's slap. This was the ultimate humiliation. However, as soon as he roared, another slap landed on his face. He was sent flying 10 kilometers away again. You dare to compete with me in terms of body strength? A weakling like you wants to snatch my position as the revered Buddha of the world? You dare to kill my disciple? Jiang Tian shook his head sympathetically. His eyes were full of mockery. He had merged the 5 divine bodies into one. Even if he didn't use his dharma, the power inside could suppress all divine bodies, immortal bodies and saint bodies. Xianku only cultivated the heavenly demon body. It might be good in the demon race, but it wasn't even a saint body. How could it be compared to Jiang Tian? I admit that your body is very strong, and your dharma is also very scary. Xianku rose into the sky like a dragon. He looked at Jiang Tian and said mockingly, "But so what?" He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said mockingly, "My dharma and body are not as good as yours, but so what? Because I can feel the Supreme Buddha's power. Old Rulai Lotus is only 1,000 miles away, and he's about to descend." As soon as these words were spoken, the entire place fell into dead silence. Everyone's expression changed drastically. In fact, they could also feel the increasing pressure of the Buddha's power. The entire Golden Peak and Thunder Mountain were shaking violently. Xianku wasn't lying, and he wasn't bluffing. Lotus Tathagata was really going to return. He was an experienced nascent soul cultivator. He was the promoter of the nude meat. He had defeated thousands of sects and clans by himself. That was why Westland was called the Westland Buddhist Kingdom. Such an unparalleled giant was extremely talented. Datong and Xianku couldn't compare to him at all. He had been dominating Westland for thousands of years. Who could stop him? Kong Taichu was even worse. Taichu, let's go back to Earth. The outside world is too dangerous. Li Wuji couldn't take it anymore. He was so scared that sweat rolled down his forehead like a waterfall. Could it be that Lotus Rulai is your greatest support? But Jiang Tian was as calm as a rock. He even looked at Xian Ku and laughed mockingly. Yes. So what? Seeing that Jiang Tian was so calm, Xian Ku felt like he had been greatly insulted. He roared angrily, his voice like thunder. Since you were able to walk out of the Thunder Lock alive, you should know how powerful my master is. You must have been accepted as a disciple by my master. No, you can only be my master's servant. He spat out a mouthful of blood and said disdainfully, Then you should know that I'm old Rulai Lotus' favorite disciple, and the first disciple of a beast cultivator. How dare you humiliate me like this? Do you think my master will let you go? Will he let you, a servant, defeat and humiliate his disciple? Will he let you, an ant from earth, challenge his supreme power? No. You are. Xian Ku stared at Jiang Tian with resentment, growling word by word. Taichu Overlord, kill him now, then go back to Earth and gather enough strength for a comeback. The old and shrewd flaming man suggested this through his divine sense. No. Jiang Tian's face was calm and composed. He sneered and said leisurely, I'm not leaving. I'll give him a chance. When old Rulai Lotus comes back, I'll see what he can do to me. Taichu Overlord, you can't do that. Fiery Overlord, Whitebeard, Fan Luome, Shaoling Yu and the other overlords exclaimed. Not only was Lord Lotus Tathagata's cultivation high and powerful, but he was also ferocious and vengeful. If he saw his favorite disciple, Xian Ku, being beaten like this, he would not let Jiang Tian go. He might even vent his anger on the others. I know that you surrendered to Xian Ku, because you were afraid that I wouldn't be able to stop Liansheng when he comes back. He's right. Liansheng is indeed alive, and the situation in the Thunder Lock is exactly as he said. Jiang Tian glanced at the crowd and smiled. But why can't you think about it from another perspective? Maybe I defeated Liansheng and took him as my servant. No one said a word. No one knew what they were thinking. Jiang Tian pretended to be enlightened and said, Yes, you don't believe me. Because the prejudice in people's hearts is like a mountain that is too hard to remove. You have prejudice against the Yanhuang tribe on earth. You think that we can't be compared to you ancient Indians. Even if I killed Ming Rui and Old Rulai, even if I'm not afraid of the 8-division heavenly dragon, I'm still no match for the strongest person in West Earth, Liansheng. Jiang Tian smiled lazily and said, All right. In that case, I'll shatter your prejudice today and open your eyes to reality. Today, I'm not in a hurry to kill you. I'll show you how strong old Rulai Lotus is in front of me. Chapter 1208. Taichu Sectmaster, I know you hate it when people betray you. The beautiful man took a step forward with a flower-like smile on his face. He curled his lips and said, I admit that when I saw you defeat Xian Ku, I regretted it. However, if you think you can fight against Lotus Rulai, you're too naive and ignorant. You're right. Lotus Rulai is very powerful. You can't imagine the power of a veteran nascent soul cultivator. Protector Datong stepped forward and said proudly, Kong Taichu, if you know when to back off, you should kneel and beg for mercy. Welcome Lotus Rulai out of seclusion and punish you. You're looking down on Lotus Rulai. Do you think Protector Datong and Lotus Rulai are on the same level? No, they're worlds apart. Fuxin also stepped forward and sneered. I also think that this Taichu world-revered one is too arrogant. Lung Jianfeng, the new Sword Palace Master, also said. He knew that Jiang Tian was very powerful. However, strong people were still divided into different levels. If Kong Taichu was an outstanding person, then Lotus Rulai was a god. One was on earth, while the other was in heaven. Jiang Taichu had once awed an era, but old Rulai Lotus had awed several eras. Even though he had disappeared for a long time, the few rulers above him, as well as the rulers of Xianxi and Tong Tong, were still overshadowed by his brilliance. It was like how candlelight and the sun were both rays of light, but how could a small candlelight compete with the radiant sun? Shaoling Yu, what do you think? Xian Ku stared at Shaoling Yu and sneered. This is your last chance. Do you still want to fight to the end? Think carefully. This concerns the life and death of Ting Yu Floor. Shaoling Yu's face was pale. It was unknown whether it was out of fear, or the Buddha's aura descending from the sky that was getting stronger. He was trembling and couldn't even stand properly. Originally, he was firmly on Jiang Tian's side. He was even seriously injured to stop Xianku. However, at this moment, under the pressure of old Relay Lotus, he couldn't take it anymore. He lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Suddenly, he gritted his teeth and raised his hand to look at Jiang with a bitter smile. Taichu World Venerable, as you can see, if I don't surrender, I will be killed. We, Tingyu Pavilion, support Xuanku Tathagata. Actually, everyone knew that this was just an excuse. Jiang Tian was obviously stronger than Xianku, and Xianku couldn't kill him, so he didn't need to worry about his life. Deep down, he did not think that Jiang Tian would be able to compete with Lotus Tathagata. If you stand on his side, you will be my enemy. After this, I will cruelly settle the score. Are you sure you've thought it through? Jiang Tian nodded and said with an indifferent expression, If you come to your senses now, I will let bygones be bygones for the sake of our past friendship. The same goes for the others. Although he didn't care about Xiaolingyu's level, he still reminded her to be blunt. Disciple has already thought it through. That's the only way. Xiaolingyu sighed and bowed in a seemingly respectful manner. Seeing this, Fan Luomei couldn't stand it anymore and shouted angrily, Xiaolingyu, you kowtowed 3 times and 9 times in front of the Taichu World Venerable to show your loyalty. In the end, in just a month, you actually forgot your oath and betrayed the Taichu World Venerable. How despicable. Xiaolingyu still needed to be polite to Jiang Tian, but he wasn't so polite to Fan Luomei. His pale and melancholic face revealed a hint of mockery as he said calmly, A wise man will know when to back down. Fan Luomei, you can mock me all you want now, but you will definitely regret it after a while. You will know how ignorant and stupid you are. He shook his head in his heart. Fan Luomei, you are still too young. You don't know what it means to be an experienced nascent soul cultivator. You also don't know how domineering and terrifying Lotus Tathagata was when he swept across West Earth. Fan Luomei was so angry that her whole body was trembling. She couldn't say a word. Well said. A wise man knows when to back down. The 2 sect masters of Tingyu Tower and Hahuan sect are examples. Seeing this, Xianku laughed wildly and looked at Jiang Tian with a face full of mockery. So what if Kong Taichu is powerful and talented? I only need to say a few words to break up your alliance and turn you into a loner. Feeling that the Buddhist aura descending from the sky was becoming more and more condensed, Xianku was very satisfied. He scanned the crowd and said loudly, I believe everyone will make a rational choice. The Sword Palace supports Xianku Tathagata. Lung Jianfeng was the first to step out and say loudly. The other leaders were all hesitating and struggling in their hearts. After all, Lotus was very powerful, and Kong Taichu wasn't weak either. They couldn't offend either. At this moment, everyone saw a domineering aura descend from the sky like a comet, bringing with it surging flames, giving rise to a deafening sonic boom. Lotus Tathagata, it's really Lotus Tathagata. Who can resist the power of Lotus Tathagata? At this moment, countless people looked up and exclaimed. Many people were dumbfounded. Their faces were paler than a corpse that had been dead for 3 days, and they couldn't stop trembling. Seeing this, many people couldn't take it anymore. More than a dozen sect masters stood on Xianku's side. Disciple Xianku welcomes Master out of the mountain. Xianku knelt in the void with his palms together. His face was full of reverence, and his eyes were filled with tears as if he had seen a god. Disciple welcomes Lotus Tathagata out of the mountain. Welcome old Tathagata out of the mountain. May old Tathagata slay the evil Kong Taichu and establish an everlasting achievement. Countless senior monks of Golden Rock Temple knelt on the ground, their faces filled with sincerity and zeal. Some old monks trembled and shed tears of excitement. They were too happy and excited. Kong Taichu, a Yanhuang tribesman and a mortal from Earth, had taken over Golden Rock Temple and called himself the revered one of the world. Under Kong Taichu's tyranny, what kind of life had they led? Darkness, a life worse than death. Now that Lotus Tathagata had returned, he had swept away all the pests and cleansed the universe. Kong Taichu, Just wait to be trampled to death. Evil creature. Today I will kill you. Before Lotus Tathagata even arrived, a majestic, angry roar came down like rolling thunder. The mighty Buddha's aura came down from the sky like raging waves, and tens of thousands of mountains came crashing down. Under this invincible Buddha's aura, countless rocks and trees were reduced to dust. The protective mountain formations' Tao patterns were destroyed, and the ground cracked open. The indestructible golden peak buzzed and shook violently, as if it was about to collapse. At this moment, everyone couldn't take it anymore. They fell from the sky and knelt on the ground to worship. Kong Techu, let's see how long you can be so arrogant. My master is angry. Haha, you're dead. Only Xian Ku was still kneeling in the sky, but he was smiling malevolently at Jiang Tian with pride. Now do you still dare to hit me? Do you dare to offend my master's Buddha's aura? Ha ha ha. My master is a veteran nascent soul cultivator, and now he's back. At this moment, he was like a serf who had turned over a new leaf. He was elated and arrogant. He gritted his teeth and roared loudly. Today's extraordinary shame and humiliation. This seat must return it 1,000 times, 100 times. I will torture you well. I will soak you in python poison. I will pull out your tendons and peel off your skin. I will chew your bones piece by piece. I will eat your flesh piece by piece. And you will regret, you will despair. You will wail in regret and despair. Is that so? Jiang Tian was still as calm as ever. He calmly scanned the area beneath his feet and around him, then asked calmly, I wonder if there is anyone else who is not convinced by me, Kong Techu. If you want to fight me, if you want to defeat me, come out. I'll give you a chance. Me. The king of the Qixia kingdom is also not convinced by you. A powerhouse in a yellow brocade robe and a golden crown stepped forward. Good. You're ambitious. Jiang Tian chuckled. Sometimes he was too soft-hearted. This country was one of the ones who attacked Maolin City, but he didn't kill them all. Now they jumped out again. The new leader of the Sky Wolf sect, Zhan Hao, wants to avenge his father, Zhan Xiong. Then a young cultivator stepped forward and glared at Jiang Tian with hatred. Jiang Tian wanted to laugh. Zhan Xiong was indeed killed by him, but after he defeated the Tathagata Buddha, he asked to see him again and again and called himself his disciple. Why didn't he remember to avenge his father at that time? The king of the mountain suppression country is also not convinced. You're just a leader of an evil sect. How dare you call yourself the revered one of the West Earth? What a joke. Yes. Lotus Elder Rulai has returned. He saved the world, stabilized the 4 dimensions, and supported the world. He's a true genius. Then, one by one, the big shots stepped forward, wanting to take the opportunity to curry favor with Lotus Elder Rulai and break off relations with Jiang Tian. Who else? Jiang Tian scanned the crowd and asked. At this time, except for the Flame Worship sect and the Changxing sect, almost all the orthodoxies and forces had betrayed Jiang Tian. In their opinion, Jiang Tian would definitely not be able to hold on and would die. They would be fools to stand on his side. It's no use surrendering. Lotus is not of our race. He won't let us go. Let's wait for our deaths. Li Wuji was scared out of his wits. He sat on the ground with tears streaming down his face. He hit his head and pulled his hair, muttering, Kong Techu, you son of a bitch. I didn't believe you. I shouldn't have followed you. Son of a bitch. How many times have I told you to quit while you're ahead and return to Earth? It's too dangerous outside, but you didn't listen. We're finished this time. You didn't kill me. A disciple transmitted his voice, wanting to betray him. Huayan gritted his teeth and held on. He shouted angrily, I'll kill whoever dares to say the word surrender again. Luomei, what should we do? At this time, even Whitebeard could not hold on. His head was dizzy, and he did not know what to do. I don't want you to be confused. Sleep for a while. Fairy Luomei turned her head and smiled. Suddenly, she slashed Whitebeard's neck with her palm. Don't do this. I want to see the ending. Whitebeard's eyes rolled back. His body swayed, and he fell to the ground unconscious. Thus he missed the most exciting scene. It was also the scene that the strong practitioners of West Earth still praised endlessly even after hundreds of years. Lung Jianfeng's Sea of Qi and Dantian were later destroyed by Jiang Tian, and he lost all his cultivation. He lived until he was 120 years old, but he still bragged about the grand occasion from time to his juniors. When he talked about the emotional parts, he was so excited that his whole body trembled. His sunken eyes were filled with murky tears. Old Rulai Lotus's kick was really sudden and caught me off guard. That scene was really spectacular. Chapter 1209. Jiang Taichu, from what you're saying, it seems like you're still planning to settle the score? Xian Ku didn't realize the tragic fate that was about to befall him. He felt that Lotus was getting stronger and stronger. His face was full of mockery as if he was looking at an ant. No. Why wait until after autumn? I want to settle the score on the spot. Jiang Tian's eyes were full of mockery as he said lightly, Kong Taichu, when it comes to bluffing, no one in the entire Westland is convinced by you. Seeing that Jiang Tian was calm, Xian Ku laughed and said mockingly, My master is here. Even my master is here. His foot has already descended from the sky. Do you think you can block it? You don't really think that you can stop me, do you? Your arrogance and ignorance are rare in this world. He didn't look at Jiang Tian anymore. After all, Jiang Tian was going to die. Instead, he put his palms together and looked at the figure of Lord Lotus in the sky with reverence. He was so excited that tears rolled down his cheeks. Disciple welcomes Lord Lotus and praises the immeasurable light Buddha of the pure lotus to return to the Westland and clean up the world. Bang! The next moment, the foot that broke through the clouds and split the sky, creating flames in the air. However, the foot landed heavily on Xian Ku's head. Lian Sheng's kick made Xian Ku fall from thousands of meters in the air all the way to the Golden Peak. Master, I stepped on the wrong foot. One side of Xian Ku's face was broken. Blood and countless canine teeth flew out. The muscles on his face rippled like water. He was completely dumbfounded. He only had time to say that one sentence. The next moment, with a bang, his head broke through the roof and beams of a hall. The gigantic foot wearing straw sandals stomped on his head, crushing the roof of the hall, the beams, the tables, the stone bricks, the runes, and countless rocks. Clang, clang, clang. The foot stomped all the way down, directly crushing half of the golden roof 1,000 meters high before it stopped. Huge rocks were sent flying in all directions. Colorful mushroom clouds bloomed one after another like fireworks. It was a scene of chaos, magnificent and moving. When the smoke and dust dispersed, everyone was shocked to see that amidst the rubble, Xian Ku was lying there like a bloody gourd. His bones and tendons were broken, and his body was twitching. Blood was oozing out of his mouth. Half of his head had exploded. Master, I'm Xiao Ku, your most beloved Xiao Ku. You must have mistaken me for someone else. Xian Ku struggled to raise his head. As he spoke, he spat out blood and lung pieces. With tears in his eyes, he said, That is Kong Taichu. Why didn't you kill him? Lian Sheng was expressionless like a stone Buddha, but he still moved. He lifted his leg and crushed Yifutian's knee. Ah, master. Why did you step on me? Why? Say something. Xian Ku howled miserably. It was mournful to the extreme, causing one's hair to stand on end. There was dead silence. The atmosphere was extremely strange. Everyone looked at each other, dumbfounded, as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Why isn't he talking? Why did he step on you? Jiang Tian sneered. Because Lian Sheng has been defeated by me. The high and mighty old Rulai in your hearts is just my dog. If I don't open my mouth and don't let him speak, he won't dare to speak. In fact, this was indeed the case. When Jiang Tian arrived at the Golden Peak, he had already used his divine consciousness to stop Lian Sheng from communicating with Xian Ku and the others. Lian Sheng knew that Jiang Tian was luring the snake out of its hole. He wanted those with evil intentions to jump out and deal with them together. But everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. Nonsense. How is this possible? Kong Taichu, do you think you can fool us? We won't believe you at all. Lian Sheng Rulai is already here, and you still dare to talk nonsense and provoke him. You are courting death. Many people screamed. Some of the beautiful men even sounded like they were crying. In fact, although they found it hard to believe, they had already believed most of it in their hearts. If Liansheng hadn't submitted to Jiang Tian, why would he attack Xianku? If Liansheng had not been defeated by Jiang Tian, with his ruthless, merciless, domineering personality, how could he have allowed Jiang Tian to be so disrespectful and let him do as he pleased? But they didn't want to believe it or accept it. This was because Jiang Tian had already let them go and made peace with them. Especially Xiaoling Yu and Mei Jiaonan. Jiang Tian placed them in an important position. If they followed Jiang Tian, they would have a bright future. They would be able to reach the highest level and obtain endless blessings. They could even follow Jiang Tian to break the dimensional barrier, break the cage of heaven and earth, break out of the solar system, and enter the central galaxy. But because of a single mistake, everything had become a bubble in a dream. They were going to face a disaster. They just needed to hold on for another 2 hours, no, an hour. Old Rely, I am the great virtuous guardian. The great virtuous guardian was unwilling to give up. He rose into the air and knelt down at Liansheng's feet. He put his palms together and bowed respectfully. Then he pointed at Jiang Tian and said fiercely, "This is Kong Teichu. He killed the great Buddha, destroyed the demigods and semi-devils, damaged the dignity of Buddhism, and caused chaos in the world. Please make a move to kill this fiend and establish eternal peace for West Earth." Liansheng didn't say anything and turned a deaf ear. Jiang Tian suddenly smiled and said, "Liansheng, do you dare to kill me? You can speak now." "Master, I don't dare. I'm just a loyal dog of the Taichu world, venerable. I'll bite whoever you ask me to." Liansheng finally spoke. He bent his knees and knelt among the rocks, kowtowing respectfully to Jiang Tian. His actions were natural and his eyes were sincere, as if he was looking at a god. At that moment there was dead silence. The countless strong practitioners on the Golden Peak were all dumbfounded. They couldn't make a single sound. Within a radius of 100 miles, the countless eminent monks and strong practitioners on Mount Thunderclap were all in disbelief as they looked at the shocking scene in a daze. They looked at the kneeling old Rulai and the white-robed youth with black hair and black eyes standing proudly in the sky with his hands behind his back. It was as if a true god had descended to the mortal world. "Master? I'm just a dog." The beautiful man's face, which was even more handsome than a girl's, was filled with bitterness. The corners of his mouth twitched nervously, and his mind was blank. Such an ending was too hard to accept. They had betrayed Jiang Tian because they thought that Jiang Tian had been killed or intimidated by old Rulai. Previously, they had thought that old Rulai could crush Jiang Tian, so they could look down on Jiang Tian. They thought that Jiang Tian was at the end of his road, so they mocked and criticized Jiang Tian, frantically showing their loyalty to old Rulai. However, they had never expected old Rulai to be Jiang Tian's servant. To put it bluntly, he was just a dog. At that moment, when they thought about their previous actions, they felt that it was laughable and stupid, like clowns. In fact, not only the beautiful man, almost everyone found it hard to accept. He actually turned the tables? Even Huoyan, Fan Luomei, and the rest, who were staunch supporters of Jiang Tian, felt like they were dreaming. They looked at everything in disbelief. For example, Fan Luomei supported Jiang Tian not because she thought that Jiang Tian would win, but because she had no other choice. Originally, the longevity sex rules were against Buddhism, and they were a thorn in their side. Even if they surrendered, they would be destroyed sooner or later, so they might as well take a gamble. How did this happen? As for Lung Jianfeng of Sword Palace, he was so frightened that his knees went soft, and he knelt on the ground. "Senior brother, your sect will be wiped out." Zhang Wen, who was beside him, was extremely shocked. The aura in his sea of qi became unstable, and he actually convulsed and fell to the ground. His eyes rolled back, and he foamed at the mouth. Green bile seeped out of his mouth. He was actually scared out of his wits. They had already seen Jiang Tian's ferocity. He had killed over 30 Golden Core Realm cultivators in Malan City, slaughtered millions of soldiers, and destroyed Jinyu country. The fire burned for 10 days and 10 nights before stopping. What did they have that was worth Jiang Tian giving them a way out? They were definitely going to die. I just need to hold on for a little longer, just a little longer. Xiao Yu's mind buzzed, and he had a miserable smile on his face. Tears streamed down his face, and his body was on the verge of collapsing. He couldn't even stand properly. The one who regretted it the most was probably Xiao Yu. He had bitterly held on for a long time, and even suffered serious injuries. However, he betrayed Jiang Tian at the last moment. However, this betrayal would erase all his previous efforts. At this moment, a strong sense of regret surged in his heart. Even the 3 rivers and 5 seas wouldn't be able to wash it away. Master, what exactly is going on? Why did it turn out like this? How can he be your opponent? Xianku was also stunned. He struggled and shouted. He saw old Rulai Lotus as a god, but he didn't expect his master to lower his head to a Yanhuang tribesman, an ant from Earth. He had painstakingly planned for this operation for a month. Everything was ready, and victory was in sight. But in the end, this was the outcome. Quang. Old Rulai Lotus didn't say anything and stomped down again. Blood splattered, and his chest was pierced through. Xiao Yu, in your eyes, old Rulai Lotus is a god, high and mighty. But what about the truth? Fan Luomei had just been humiliated by the other party, and she was extremely depressed. Now she couldn't help but feel elated. Of course, she would return it 100-fold. One careless move, and the whole game is lost. Xiao Yu was in a daze. He could only look up at the sky and let out a long sigh. He couldn't say a single word of rebuttal. You said I would regret it. But what about the truth? Fan Luomei's face was full of mockery as she looked at him coldly. Xiao Yu's face was pale like a corpse that had been dead for 3 days. But he didn't say a word, because it was too late to say anything. Taichu World Senior, please give me a chance. I'm willing to be your slave. As for the beautiful man, he had already knelt on the ground with tears flowing down his face. He kowtowed and begged pitifully. We were wrong. Taichu World Senior, please treat us as a fart and let us go. This included Lung Jianfeng and the other strong people who had just betrayed Jiang Tian. I seem to have given you more than one chance. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed with a hint of mockery. His cold voice sent chills down everyone's spine, and they all shivered. Chapter 12:10. Jiang Tian's face was expressionless as he said, neither too fast nor too slow. Back then, you attacked Maolin City and humiliated me. You should have died 100 times to atone for that. However, I, Kong Teichu, have always been merciful and I'm used to thinking from your point of view. I thought it was just a battle of interests and not a selfless vengeance. You begged for mercy and your head was bleeding, so I let you go. Just now, I asked you to think carefully and gave you a few chances. If you came to your senses, I would have let bygones be bygones. But you're very determined. You're determined to be my enemy. Clatter, clatter, clatter. The beautiful man knelt there, and his teeth clattered like a machine gun. From the beginning to the end, I wanted to shake hands and make peace with you. I wanted to be close comrades with you. We once fought side by side, and our friendship lasted for a long time. We were true friends. You're also good at singing and dancing. I admire you even more. Why did you have to go to this extent? It really makes this Zhang's heart ache. Jiang Tian looked up at the sky and sighed, his face filled with sorrow. Then he raised his hand and slapped down, not showing any mercy. Suddenly, a red true fire of the red sparrow burned the beautiful man into ashes, and even his divine soul was annihilated. The fire is strong and he died peacefully. Jiang Tian raised his hand and took the golden core from the ashes. He looked at Xiao Yu calmly and said with a smile, Don't worry, brother Lingyu. I'll also make the fire burn brighter. It won't hurt at all. After all, you and I are friends. Xiao Yu knew he couldn't escape death. He gritted his teeth and threatened Jiang Tian at the last moment. My friend, I know you'll go back to Earth. If you kill me, who will help you in this world? Almost all the sects and orthodoxies betrayed you this time. Are you going to kill them all? If you kill all of them, do you think the Fire Worship sect and the Longevity sect will be able to suppress West Earth and protect Earth if the ruins of immortality invades? At this moment, his hair was disheveled and his entire body was drenched in blood. He had completely lost his usual elegance and gloominess. Instead, he was roaring hysterically, and he was as savage and terrifying as a devil. At the very least, can you kill all of us in one go? I have a lot of illegitimate children that no one knows about. You or anyone else will never be able to find them. As long as you don't kill them all, they will gradually grow up and learn the supreme Tao. One day, their mother will tell them that their father was killed by you, Kong Te-chu. They will enter Earth. Can your parents, wife and children stop them? What he said was true. In fact, apart from the Chongshan sect, there were many portals in this world that led to Earth. However, back then, only the Chongshan sect coveted Earth. So many teleportation portals were not activated. But if Jiang Tian became enemies with them, many people would be able to invade Earth and take revenge. Jiang Tian was indeed powerful, but Jiang Tian's family and the Tianqing school were still incomparable to the overlords of West Earth. Xiaolin words were very provocative, and also very reasonable. As soon as these words were spoken, many people immediately glared at Jiang Tian with hatred, revealing resentment and unyielding expressions. Haha, do I need you to protect West Earth? Do you think I don't have anyone here? Jiang Tian snickered. Swish, swish, swish. For people fell from the sky. Xiaolin and the others looked up. One of them was Mao Hongdai, but they didn't know the other three. However, 1,000 Zhonglong flood dragon, a humongous koan, and a yellow spring water that blotted out the sky exploded in the sky. The three Dharma Laksana were all magnificent and powerful. They were not inferior to Lotus Tathagata at all. The three ferocious auras combined into one and crushed down like 10,000 mountains. Boom! A huge chunk of the towering and indestructible Arhat mountain collapsed, and the entire mount laying within a radius of 100 miles was trembling violently, trembling uneasily. Nascent soul formation. 3 nascent soul cultivators. Xiaolin was forced to kneel on the ground by this pressure, and he couldn't get up no matter how hard he tried. His face was trembling, and his eyes were filled with astonishment and shock. The dragon race? The Kuanping race? Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. Ancestral Patriarch Xinlong, Ancestral Patriarch Mingi and Ancestral Patriarch Takong greet you, Master. Rumble. The 3 nascent soul cultivators landed on the golden peak like meteorites. They knelt on one knee and raised their fists above their heads to greet Jiang Tian. Rumble. The mountain protecting grand formation instantly exploded. The light dimmed, and the mountain rocks within a radius of 3 to 4 miles exploded. Palaces collapsed, and rubble flew everywhere. With the place where they landed as the center, 3 huge pits appeared. The ground turned into rolling lava, rippling like water. The entire golden summit was in a mess. The 3 nascent soul cultivators have submitted to him. 3 nascent soul cultivators. Feeling the enormous pressure, everyone's mind trembled, like withered leaves in the wind, shivering. Although nascent soul cultivators were only at the transition stage from the golden core level to the nascent soul level, they were still able to crush those at the golden core level. Who would be able to withstand such power? Get up. Jiang Tian nodded. The 3 of them rose and stood behind Jiang Tian. They didn't say a word and looked down at the world like 3 peerless fiend gods. Xiaolin, do you know how many people want to submit to me? Jiang Tian stood in the air and said with a mocking face. Do you know that if I had shown mercy, Buddha Datong would have kowtowed to me and acknowledged me as his master? However, he's only been a nascent soul cultivator for 100 years and he's extremely hypocritical. I don't want to accept him. Xiaolin, do you still think I have to use you? Do you still think you're qualified to bargain with me? No, you've never been qualified to do so. I didn't kill you not because you're useful, but because I'm too merciful. I've lost. I've completely lost. Xiaolin, who was dumbfounded, murmured to himself in a daze. After hearing Jiang Tian's question, he finally reacted as if he had been struck by lightning. He almost collapsed on the ground, and with a bitter and sad smile he said, That's right. I admit defeat. I didn't expect you, Kong Te-chu, to be so powerful and have such a terrifying trump card. I, Xiaolin, can only blame myself for being blind. A nascent soul cultivator was comparable to at least 100 golden core cultivators. In other words, Any one of them was as powerful as dozens of Xiaolingyu. Including Liansheng, Jiang Tian had 4 nascent soul cultivators guarding him. Why would he need him? Besides, why would Jiang Tian use someone like Xiaolingyu, who didn't have a firm will and betrayed the enemy? For his comrades, for the sake of his promise, Jiang Tian could be fearless. At the same time, Jiang Tian also wanted people who were loyal and reliable. They were comrades in arms who could turn their backs to each other on the battlefield. As for Jiang Tian and Xiaolingyu, there was no need to discuss whether their henchmen could invade Earth and avenge them. With the protection of 4 nascent soul cultivators, it was impossible for West Earth to invade Earth. It was like an ant trying to shake a tree. But you've reminded me. A glint of coldness flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes. I'm not only going to kill you, but also your entire family. How dare you threaten me? I'm going to kill you. Before he finished, Jiang Tian tapped his forehead. The golden lake rippled, and an enormous underworld gate formed by devouring souls appeared behind it. No. Taichu Overlord, I'll take responsibility for what I did. Don't hurt the innocent. Xiaolingyu screamed. The pain and regret in his heart couldn't be described with words. He finally understood that there were some people in the world who couldn't be provoked, offended or shaken. His threat had led to the destruction of his entire family. If not, he could have at least left some of his descendants. But it was too late to say anything. He could only watch helplessly. He watched as the nether gate opened and countless tentacle-like black soul devourers shot into the sky from all directions, as if there was no end to them. After that, every soul devourer brought over thousands of souls that were screaming miserably, struggling helplessly, and crying in terror. Regardless of whether it was the elderly, the middle-aged elites, or even the youngsters, or the babbling children. All of Xiaolingyu's 3 generations were devoured by the nether gate. Not a single one was spared. The entire place was dead silent. Cold sweat rolled down their foreheads like a waterfall, and their hearts trembled. Ruthless. Too ruthless. They were all ruthless people whose hands were stained with blood. Which one of them hadn't killed hundreds of people? Some of them had even destroyed countries and cities. But it was the first time they had seen someone as ruthless and merciless as Jiang Tian. In the blink of an eye, Xiaolingyu's roots were completely uprooted from this continent. Not a single strand of him was left behind, eliminating all future troubles. Many of them weren't afraid of death, but it didn't mean that they weren't afraid of their families being threatened. Jiang Tian's behavior made them shiver in fear. I'll take responsibility for my own actions? What right do you have to say that? Jiang Tian looked at Xiaolingyu and sneered. How could you forget to take responsibility for your own actions when you attacked my parents, wife and children? They wouldn't have died, especially those children. They were indeed innocent. But you told me that they would grow up and take revenge. I had to kill them. You asked for it. Puff. Xiaolingyu was so angry that his eyes were about to burst. Tears rolled down his cheeks and blood spurted out of his mouth uncontrollably. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. He felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife. It was a fate worse than death. At this moment, the regret in his heart couldn't be washed away even with all the water in the world. If he was given another chance, he would never betray Jiang Tian, would never stand on Xian Ku's side and become Jiang Tian's enemy, even if he had to be hacked into thousands of pieces and his bones burned into ashes. Yes, the devil. To be able to curse and kill people hundreds and thousands of miles away. A single curse could wipe out all your blood relatives, trace it back to the source, and exterminate your entire clan. Whether it was the magic arts or the cruel nature, they were simply the most terrifying demons in hell. Kill me. Wu. I beg you, Taichu Overlord, kill me. Give me death. Xiaolingyu knelt on the ground with his head buried in the rocks. His body twitched and spasmed like an old dog that had been beaten with a stick. Everyone felt a chill down their spines and shivered. Xiaolingyu was the sect master of a major sect, a veteran golden core cultivator. Such a talented and powerful figure had been completely destroyed by Kong Taichu. He was in so much pain that he wanted to die. He only wanted death to be free. Chapter 12:11. Okay. Like I said, The fire will burn brightly and you will die peacefully. Jiang Tian smiled lazily and flicked his finger. Suddenly, the Suzaku true fire swept out and turned Xiaolin Yu's body and divine soul into ashes. The golden core was still taken away by Jiang Tian. After killing Xiaolin Yu, Jiang Tian looked at Xian Ku and said with a smile, "Black Python Demonic Cultivator, you think your bloodline is powerful, but do you know that the people of Wuxia, especially the Lingnan generation, love snake soup the most?" Xian Ku was so scared that he couldn't stop shaking. He was scared out of his wits. He said with a flattering face, "Little Python, I am willing to be your pet. Taichu World Venerable, please give me a chance." "Are you kidding me?" Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon sneered. "I have the blood of a real dragon, but I'm not qualified to be your pet." "That's right. I have the blood of the Kuan-Peng, and I'm proficient in the space secret arts. I don't dare to ask for your favor. I just want to work hard under your command. A cute pet. You're really good at flattering yourself." Ancestral Patriarch Takong also mocked. In fact, Ancestral Patriarch Takong had the blood of the Kuan-Peng, and he was older than Guang Kuan. The Kuan-Peng could control the power of space, but Ancestral Patriarch Takong could do it. That was why he was called Ancestral Patriarch Takong. "Ah, I regret it so much." Xian Ku's face turned pale as he screamed. His body trembled and tears flowed down his face. Jiang Tian smiled and said, "Liansheng, Xian Ku is your disciple and the Golden Rock Temple is your home ground. You can deal with these bald donkeys as you see fit." "Yes, master." Ignoring Xian Ku's pleading eyes, Liansheng's eyes were cold and emotionless. He raised his hand and slapped Xian Ku to death. He had always been a decisive and bloodthirsty person. He would kill even his disciples without hesitation. Then, amid the mournful wailing and begging for mercy, Liansheng slapped the Vedanta protector and many senior members of the Golden Rock Temple, who betrayed Jiang Tian into meat pies. "Leng Jianfeng, you jumped quite high just now. It's time to settle the score. I'll cripple your cultivation and break your legs. Qixia Monarch, you were quite loud just now. How dare you disrespect the Honorable Taichu? Come, let's have a chat." Fan Luomei, Huoyan, and the others were revived. They attacked together, killing Leng Jianfeng and the other small fries who dared to resist Jiang Tian. At this moment, the entire Golden Rock Temple collapsed, and the Buddha statues were stained with blood. At this moment, countless corpses were piled up within hundreds of miles of Thunder Mountain. At this moment, countless people prostrated themselves at Jiang Tian's feet, trembling in fear. Only Jiang Tian stood proudly in the void, looking down at the world with cold eyes like an ancient god. The survivors were all terrified, as if they had lost their parents. A thought came to their minds. This time Jiang Taichu returned with 4 nascent soul realm mold monsters and killed 3 great orthodoxies. Blood dyed the land in 100 miles. I'm afraid he'll always be the one calling the shots in West Earth. After this battle, Jiang Tian had completely suppressed West Earth. At least, no one would dare to resist him for a few hundred years. Soon, the corpses and blood in the Golden Rock Temple were washed clean. Everyone greeted each other and sat down. Jiang Tian glanced at everyone and said, "I'm going to return to Earth soon, so I need to make some arrangements." Li Wuji heaved a sigh of relief. He still felt that the outside world was too dangerous. Earth was more comfortable. Yi Karen's martial demoness also revealed a look of joy. Taking down West Earth could be said to have been surrounded by danger, so they could finally relax. "Are the 4 nascent soul cultivators willing to go to Earth with me? The Earth realm is very desolate, and its spirit chi is scarce." Jiang Tian asked. "Of course we will follow you to the end, my lord, without hesitation." Liansheng and the other 3 nodded without hesitation. Li Wuji was envious and shocked. His heart skipped a beat. Tianqing School suddenly had 4 more nascent soul cultivators. The Kunlun sect would never be able to catch up in the future. He sighed in his heart. "Sigh, looks like I should give up on that plan." Becoming enemies with Kong Taichu was courting death. Jiang Tian nodded, then looked at Huoyan and said with a smile, "By the way, I want 30% of the Red Lotus Earth Fire in your sect to build a deity body for my disciple Ling Long." "Of course." You can take all of it. Huoyan didn't hesitate and agreed. The Li fire arcane technique that Jiang Tian gave him absorbed the cosmic fire, and true sun fire scattered in space. It could be improved without the power of earth fire, so he was naturally willing to do this favor. Master wants to build a deity body for me? Tang Linglong was stunned and felt a surge of warmth in her heart. Is it at the same level as Master's stainless phoenix deity body? Let's go to the fire worship sect. Jiang Tian chuckled. He did not comment and stood up. The stainless phoenix deity body was a deity body that was rare in 10,000 years. It was one of the 12 deity bodies that had the potential to become an immortal emperor. Few people could compare to it. The Li fire deity body was one of the 5 elements deity bodies. Of course, it was not as powerful as the stainless phoenix deity body. However, the Li fire deity body was ranked among the top 20 deity bodies. Even in the central galaxy deep in the universe, it was enough to look down on the heroes. Tang Linglong's root bone was not very high. However, Jiang Tian had recently discovered that she had a fire-hidden spiritual root. Hidden spiritual roots were relatively weak and unstable. Its power and talent were sometimes unleashed and sometimes hidden. Jiang Tian had only discovered that she had a fiery temper and would explode at the slightest provocation. So he had given her the blazing bone sword on the Death Hill. However, Jiang Tian had not discovered her fire-hidden spiritual root at that time. It was only when she was fighting with Feng Ao, Lan Dai, and the beast python that her potential was raised to the extreme that Jiang Tian discovered a clue. Farewell, Supreme of the world. Many monks, bodhisattvas and vajras who were still alive heaved a sigh of relief as if they had been pardoned. The god of plagues was finally gone. Jiang Tian walked out and said with a faint smile, "By the way, Luomei, you stay here. I'm going back to Earth soon. When I'm not around, you'll be the supreme of the West Earth and the Golden Rock Temple's Tathagata." What? A woman is going to become the supreme of the world, and become a Buddha? Not only were the monks stunned, but even Fairy Luomei was in disbelief. Why, can't I? Jiang Tian asked with a smile. Taichu supreme of the world. There has never been a precedent of a woman becoming a Buddha or a supreme of the world. This is against the rules. It doesn't make sense. A bodhisattva stepped out and shouted with dissatisfaction. Great kindness, shut up. How dare you go against the Taichu supreme of the world? Do you want me to kill you? Tathagata Lotus shouted angrily. This bodhisattva called Great Kindness was a fanatical believer. He was straightforward and did not fear death. He was not afraid of threats at all. He said calmly, "Then kill me. I'm going to die to protect the rules of the Buddhist sect. What's there to be afraid of? Even if you kill me, my beliefs won't change." Lotus was about to attack when Jiang Tian stopped him. He looked at the Great Kindness Bodhisattva and asked, "You can talk about Buddhism with me. Then let me ask you, your Buddhist sect preaches that all beings are equal. Do women count as beings?" Women count as beings. The Bodhisattva hesitated and said, "Since all beings are equal, then let me ask you, if men can become Buddhas, why can't women become Buddhas and Tathagata?" Jiang Tian said. "But," the Bodhisattva stammered, not knowing how to answer. "Talk about Buddhism with me? Let me ask you again. Golden Rock Temple preaches that all beings are equal. Why do the Bodhisattvas, eminent monks and Vajra arhats in the temple all ride on demons and beasts?" Jiang Tian frowned and shouted. "This." The Bodhisattva's forehead was sweating and he was speechless. Since the Buddhist sect wants all beings to be equal and have the virtue of caring for life, then do demons and demons count as beings? Why do you claim to be righteous and kill demons and demons? Jiang Tian asked again. "This you're quibbling." The Great Kindness Bodhisattva gritted his teeth and shouted coldly, "Demons and demons eat humans and kill countless people. Of course we have to kill them. What about demons and demons that don't eat humans? Don't you still kill them as you wish? Why are there people who can put down their weapons and become Buddhas? How can the Buddhist sect protect them? No one can kill those so-called Buddhas who put down their weapons in the Buddhist sect." Jiang Tian laughed. This. The Great Kindness Bodhisattva shuddered and the veins on his forehead throbbed. However, he could not say a single word. I'll tell you why. Jiang Tianzong laughed and said, that's because the Buddhist sect can win, defend and suppress. Therefore, whoever the Buddhist sect says is a Buddha is a Buddha. If you want to protect an evil person, that person will be your Buddha. Fiend demons do not eat humans and do not do evil. If you want to kill them, they will still be a fiend demon. If the Buddhist sect does not have martial strength, everyone can kill and bully you. Who would want to be your Buddha? At the end of the day, it's still about martial strength and strength. Whoever has the bigger fist has the right. Right now my fist is bigger and I have the right. I don't care. In short, with me around, this woman can't be Tathagata or Buddha. This is against the rules. You're going against the flow. The Bodhisattva straightened his neck and said, Chi. Jiang Tian flicked his finger and shattered his golden core. Then he swept his gaze across everyone and asked indifferently, who do you agree with? We are willing to worship Fairy Luomei as the world supreme, as Tathagata, as a true Buddha. All the eminent monks of Golden Rock Monastery were so frightened that their legs trembled. Their faces were as pale as paper as they hurriedly kowtowed. Lotus congratulates fellow Taoist Luo Mei on becoming the first female Tathagata in West Earth. It's truly worthy of celebration. Even Lotus Tathagata bowed deeply with a fawning smile. Did you see that? Jiang Tian looked at the pale great kindness Bodhisattva, whose dantian was shattered and bleeding profusely. Rules. Reason. I have the bigger fist, so I have the right. The words of I, Kong Techu, are the rules. I refuse to accept it. The Bodhisattva gritted his teeth with a venomous gaze. He wanted to say something. I don't care if you accept it or not. I'll kill you. Continue to refuse to accept it. Jiang Tian mercilessly slapped down with his palm. The vermilion bird's flames enveloped the Bodhisattva, and his head exploded. His soul was destroyed, turning into a puff of green smoke and completely disappearing. The fire burned brightly. He died peacefully. Jiang Tian's face was calm as water. He held Tang Linglong's waist and soared into the sky. Golden Rock Monastery's first female Tathagata is born. It's truly groundbreaking. Congratulations. Huayan also hurriedly turned into a stream of light and followed into the sky. He laughed maniacally, full of mischief. Chapter 12:12. West Earth was vast, spanning tens of thousands of miles. However, Jiang Tian and Huayan's movement techniques were too fast. They arrived at the fire worship sect in just a few hours. The entire scorching desert gave people a feeling of desolation, bleakness, and scorching heat. The 1,000 li of land was barren, and yellow sand rolled about. Black oil seeped out from the ground in this barren land. Rolling flames ignited, and black smoke rose in all directions. There were also some fire-type demon beasts roaming about. They were as strong as mountains, spitting flames as they ran across the desert. There were few cities and countries in this place, but the scale was huge. The effect of settlement was obvious. The city walls were majestic and tall, and the population was huge. Moreover, they were all rough and brave people who were good at fighting. Only then could they resist the demon beasts' attacks. Fenshan Valley was located in the depths of the scorched desert. It spanned tens of miles and was surrounded by barren mountains and stone walls. They were reddish-brown and looked like red clouds. This kind of stone was called the Rainbow Red Cloud Stone. The fire worship sect's disciples took advantage of the lack of resources and dug caves on the Red Crimson Cliff to cultivate and live. The caves were densely packed, and it was a magnificent sight. Many of the disciples were above the foundation establishment realm. It was no wonder that the fire worship sect was second only to the Golden Rock Temple in West Earth. In the middle, there were groups of huge flame-shaped pagodas. All the pagodas were red in color. The tallest one was 10,000 feet tall, and the shortest one was 100 feet tall. They were carved and built in the shape of twisting flames. It was very unique. Surrounding the flaming pagodas were groups of palaces. The closer they were to the pagodas, the more exquisite and luxurious they were. This is the Red Lotus Hellfire Pagoda. It's hundreds of meters deep underground. Jiang Tian held Tang Linglong's waist and floated down. Huayan followed Jiang Tian and landed. He bowed and cupped his fists. With a flattering expression, he said respectfully, "The Red Lotus Hellfire is the foundation of the sect. It's the essence of the fire spirit. The lowest level outer sect and miscellaneous disciples can only cultivate on the surrounding stone walls. Inner sanctum disciples, on the other hand, can enter the closer group of palaces. Only elite disciples and personal disciples can enter the pagodas to cultivate. However, according to position, talent, and cultivation, the better the talent and the higher the position, the lower the level. But generally speaking, they are on the ground. The underground is the closest to the Red Lotus earth fire. Normally, only the sect's elders, hall masters, and sect leaders are allowed to enter." He made it sound simple, but Tang Linglong already understood how difficult it was to go underground and get close to the Red Lotus Hellfire. Seeing Hua Yan's figure, the faces of countless disciples turned solemn. They all walked out of their caves and kowtowed. "Greetings, Taichu World Venerate Fairy Linglong and Hua Yan sect leader." Now Jiang Tian had already defeated the 3 Rulai of Datong, Xianku, and Liansheng, and ascended to the position of revered one of the world. Who would dare to slight him in the slightest? Once the revered one of the world was angered, it would be a catastrophe. To this, Jiang Tian merely nodded and accepted their kowtows. In the past, for the sake of obtaining a position close to the earth fire, who knows how many great battles have erupted, and how many young talents have died. Hua Yan sighed and looked at Tang Linglong enviously. "My talent is not bad, but it took me 200 years to cultivate to the early golden core stage, and become an elder before I could enter the underground level of the pagoda. Miss Linglong is only in her 20s, but she can directly devour the Red Lotus Hellfire. In the history of the fire worship sect, there has never been anyone like her." Tang Linglong did not say anything when she heard this. Her eyes were already red, and crystal-clear tears were flickering in her eyes. At this moment, she clenched her teeth and did not allow herself to cry. However, a warm current and sweetness surged in her heart. She had always been infatuated with Jiang Tian. However, she also understood that Jiang Tian only had feelings for her as a master and disciple. Moreover, their relationship was too good. She did not have the slightest chance at all. She even thought that if she dared to reveal even a little more, Jiang Tian might make up his mind and expel her from the sect. Therefore, she could only hide her feelings in the bottom of her heart. She did not dare to show the slightest bit of her feelings. Sometimes she felt very wronged. Men, even if they were just ordinary rich second-generation heirs, could have multiple wives and concubines. They could have countless mistresses. As long as the wife at home did not fall, the mistresses outside fluttered. For example, Jiang Tian was the ruler of the 4 realms. Even the leaders of big countries had to treat him with respect. They could not wait to kowtow to him. Those top tycoons in the world were not even worthy of carrying Jiang Tian's shoes. It could be said that Jiang Tian had long surpassed the ordinary. However, Jiang Tian still did not get close to women. She even knew that her master's wife loved Jiang Tian very much. She even doted on him a little. She had never objected to Jiang Tian having a few more confidants. However, Jiang Tian seemed to be a neat freak. He never flirted or gave her any thoughts. How could she not feel wronged? Sometimes she even felt that in Jiang Tian's eyes she was worthless. She was not worthy of Jiang Tian's attention. But today, seeing Jiang Tian use endless red lotus earth fire to forge the Ignis celestial body for her, she could not help but be moved. "I'm afraid that in this life, I will never have the chance to be his woman. But it's not bad to be his favorite disciple." Thinking of this, Tang Linglong's heart was filled with sweetness and sadness. It was as if there was a sharp knife stirring, but also as if there was a warm current that gently comforted her. "Linglong, I will teach you a method to forge the Ignis celestial body. I will also teach you a method to control fire." Jiang Tian smiled and looked lovingly at Tang Linglong. His divine sense moved. Suddenly, 2 sets of cultivation methods appeared in Tang Linglong's mind out of thin air. Tang Linglong said in surprise, "Master, didn't you help me forge the Ignis celestial body?" "No. This Li fire immortal body is only reliable if you refine it yourself," Jiang Tian said calmly. "With my aptitude, How long will it take? Tang Linglong's heart skipped a beat. She had a bad feeling. The cultivation method I will teach you is an immortal emperor level cultivation method. The cultivation speed will be very fast. Jiang Tian's eyes flickered. He patted Tang Linglong's shoulder and said, "You have a hidden spiritual root, and it is a little heterogeneous. If you want to forge the ignis celestial body with the earth fire, generally speaking, it will take 30 years for you to achieve the small success and 60 years for you to achieve the great perfection of the gold core realm. I will definitely come to pick you up. 30 years for me to achieve the small success? The cultivation speed of an immortal emperor level cultivation method is very fast." Haha. Tang Linglong lowered her head and laughed bitterly. Then she looked up with tears hanging from her eyes and said with a sad smile, "Master, when I see you again, I will already be a little old woman." Jiang Tian turned around and looked at the slowly setting sun. He said calmly, "That's right. Cultivation knows no time. In my previous life, I had been in seclusion for hundreds of years. Also, a cultivator's appearance is eternal. I achieved the small success in 30 years, and I was still a cute little girl. Also, if your mind is strong and you have no distractions, you may only need 3 or 5 years to create a miracle. You will form the ignis celestial body and break through to the golden core realm. But what about my heart?" Tang Linglong asked. Jiang Tian looked down and pondered for a while. Then he raised his eyebrows and said coldly, "Linglong, if the spirit chi of earth recovers, there will be a strong enemy. Earth will be in danger. I am doing this for your own good. Besides, the ancient earth and the deity ground were facing the Annihilator, which was a divine-level civilization. I may die in battle. For safety's sake, I must leave the roots of my cultivation method behind. And you are my only hope. Master, you are so cruel," Tang Linglong sneered. "I've already heard that the dimension passage between Westland and Earth can only be opened naturally once every 60 years, not even with a teleport array. Xianglong and the others used a dimension treasure to open it once. But from now on, I'm afraid no one will be able to open it, except for you. You left, but left me here. I'm not waiting here for 3, 5 or 10 years but 60 years. You're destroying my feelings for you. You're putting me in jail." "Nonsense. This is seclusion, not jail." Jiang Tian's sword-like eyebrows knitted together as he scolded. "If you have the courage to advance, if your Tao heart is as firm as a rock, you shouldn't think like that. I'm very disappointed in you. Master, will you let me go and let me follow you if I've never loved you?" Tang Linglong bent her knees and knelt in front of Jiang Tian. She pulled Jiang Tian's sleeve with one hand and clutched her chest with the other. "But my heart doesn't listen to me. I can't control it. Master, 60 years. You're so cruel. If you think that this heart that loves you is wrong, then cut it out. Take it away. Just let me follow you." "Wicked disciple. Shut up." Jiang Tian suddenly turned around and didn't want to see her crying face. He was so angry that his body trembled. He had never been so angry before. "Master, when you were at the Death Hill, did you plan everything that happened today?" Tang Linglong asked. "No. I'm doing this for your own good." Jiang Tian flung his sleeves and said angrily, "Was it after we came to Westland?" Tang Linglong was stunned and mumbled, "Master, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid to face me?" Suddenly, her eyes lit up and she said excitedly, "Is it because I killed Feng Ao and the others without any regard for my own safety that day? Did it move you? Did it make you waver? Yes, you wavered. You love me because of pity. Your heart is in chaos. You're afraid that you can't control your feelings for me. You're afraid that you'll let Master's wife down, right? Silly child, I respect you. I don't want to let you down. That's right." Jiang Tian slowly turned around and wiped away her tears. Tenderness flashed in his eyes as he said gently, "Linglong, cultivate well. Master succeeded because of you." "But," Tang Linglong felt as if she was melted by Jiang Tian's gentle gaze. Her viciousness dissipated, but she was still a little unwilling and wronged. "Linglong, a person's potential is limitless. You might be able to create an immortal body in an even shorter time." Jiang Tian comforted her. Although Whitebeard, Huo Yan and the others can't break the space barrier by force, I taught them the method to communicate with me through the space barrier. As long as you create an immortal body, let them inform me and I'll come to pick you up immediately, okay? Moreover, if you cultivate the Ignis immortal body and condense the gold core, even if I don't come to pick you up, you'll be able to tear this thin space barrier. Heaven and earth will no longer be able to restrain you. Master, I'll listen to you, but you have to remember your promise. Tang Linglong's delicate body trembled. She lowered her head and gritted her teeth. She knew how strict Jiang Tian was. If she dared to pester him again, she was afraid that Jiang Tian would really expel her from the sect. When have I ever broken my promise to you? Jiang Tian touched Tang Linglong's head and smiled gently. Then, a trace of determination flashed across his face. He stepped into the air and turned into a golden rainbow that pierced through heaven and earth. Soon he disappeared from Tang Linglong's sight. Tang Linglong scanned her surroundings. The desolate desert, the barren mountains, and the unfamiliar faces were full of fear. She could not help but feel a trace of sadness and loneliness that could not be dissipated. But in her heart, she did not regret meeting Jiang Tian. She had no regrets. Fairy Linglong, let's enter the Red Lotus Hellfire Pagoda. Hui Yen, who was beside her, said fearfully. Tang Linglong looked away and walked toward the Hellfire Pagoda. She clenched her fists and secretly made up her mind. I, Tang Linglong, will not leave this pagoda until I reach the gold core stage and create an immortal body. I, Tang Linglong, will definitely create an immortal body and reach the gold core stage within 5 years. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.